Okay, so we're still on the law on contracts, and I believe we are now with regards the other essential elements of a contract. No, so we've already determined the rules that will be pertaining to consent. Okay, which is one of the essential elements, and the next one will be object, no, or yung nagiging subject matter, which is necessarily to create or end obligations. Yun nga lang dito, no, in general, okay, ang objects ng ating mga kontrata can be things, rights, or services. Okay, eto na rin yung mga rules, no, pag-uusapan natin maya-maya kung ano yung magiging requirements in order to be a valid object. And take note that the validity and existence of the object will be necessary for purposes of perfection and validity. No? Or otherwise stated nga, kapag wala tayong object dahil nawawala ang isa sa mga essential elements ay pwede nang maging void ang ating kontrata. Ngayon, sabi lang natin itong tatlo, no, ay nag-a-apply nga lang yan in general with regards contracts in general. Because when we get to specific types of contracts, hindi na lahat pwede mag-apply. No? Kasi like for example, we are talking about a contract of sale. Things and rights na lang yan. No? Because the obligation of the seller in a contract of sale will be to transfer ownership and to deliver kay the object. No? Kaya wala tayo nagiging transfer ng ownership pag services ang pinag-uusapan. No? Eh sir, di ba po under section 108 of the tax code, may tinatawag na sale of services? O di ba? Kunwari ganyan kayo magtanong. No? May legal basis. Okay? Okay, pero from a civil law perspective, technically that is a contract for a piece of work, no? Kasi nga services ang nagiging subject matter niya as compared to sales, no? When we talk about the civil law, kaya or civil code, things and rights lang ang pwedeng maging object nito. Okay? Ngayon, ang requirements naman natin dito is that it must be within the commerce of man. No, kaya nga kung kunwari may nakita ka sa Facebook na parang sabi mo, ay, ang sweet naman nila, binilhan niya ng Constellation yung jowa niya. Huwag ka nang malungkot, no? Kasi naglolokohan lang yan from a legal perspective. Kasi para hindi masyadong bitter. Now, yung mga yung mga tinatawag natin na heavenly bodies, ayan, are considered by international law as res nullius. No, anong ibig sabihin ng res nullius? Under international law, nobody owns them. No, kaya hindi sila pwedeng ma-appropriate or hindi pwedeng nagiging valid subject matter ng mga kontrata because they are outside the commerce of man. No, ganun na nagiging idea natin dito. So sir, ibig mo sabihin, ako po pwede po akong res nullius kasi nobody owns me. No, hindi yan pwede, no? Kasi mga bagay lang yung nagiging res nullius unless ang body mo ay heavenly, no? Okay. Pero generally nga ito mga heavenly bodies na ito, yung mga planeta, mga buwan, no, hindi yan pwede ma-appropriate because they are outside the commerce of man. Yun nga lang, when we talk about kasi within the commerce of man, it can sometimes be subjective, no? Kasi kunwari, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito ay body organs. Okay, with regards that of a contract of sale, it will be considered as outside the commerce of man, no? Kaya nga hindi ka pwede magbenta ng mga internal organs mo. Sir, nabalitaan ko po, yung kaibigan ko nagbenta ng kidney para lang makabili siya ng bagong iPhone. No, hindi yan totoo. Okay? Or kung totoo man yan, that's illegal. Kaya nga tinatawag yun na bentahan in the black market, no? Because they are not with or they are not allowed by law because the sale of our internal organs are considered as outside the commerce of man, no? Kaya nagiging void ito. As opposed to a donation, no? Kasi kapag donation ng body organs, pinapayagan naman yan. 'Di ba? Kaya nga meron ka nagiging donor, no, ng mga bone marrow, may donor ka ng mga kidneys sa part ng liver mo, no, pwede naman yan. In fact, no, pag ikaw ay namatay, mas madali pang mag-donate ng body organs kesa kapag mag-transfer, no, ng iyong body organs pag ikaw ay dead na compared sa kapag magpapamana ka ng mga ari-arian, no? Kasi under civil code, napaka-stricto, no, kung paano yung will or yung last will and testament, the formal requirements are very strict, no, and everything must be complied with in order for a will to be valid. Hindi katulad pag ikaw ay magdo-donate ng iyong body organs pag ikaw ay namatay, checkan mo lang yan sa lisensya, no? Kaya nga within the commerce of man naman kapag donation ng body organs. Okay, yun nga lang yan sa akin pag kung ako man kasi donor din ako, I check that in my ano in my license, no? Na kung sakaling may aksidente man na mangyari, God forbid, no? Pero pwede namang i-donate nga ang aking body organs. Yung nga, lugi-lugi na yung makakakuha niyan, no? Lalo na yung kung makakakuha ng aking lungs, no? Yung makakakuha ng aking liver, yan. Wala na siya masyado mapapakinabangan. Baka kailanganin niya rin kagad ng transplant pagkatapos. Kaya nga yung biro ng pinsan ko, no? Kasi napag-usapan din namin, alam mo yung gano'ng ka-random din na pag-uusapan sa inuman. Pati yung batas na pag-uusapan na sabi ko paano yung pag magbebenta daw ng brain. Na sabi ng pinsan ko, naku kuya, hindi mo mabibenta yung brain mo ng mahal. Hindi katulad nung sa akin, mahal pa yung mabibili kasi slightly used lang. No, slightly used lang daw. Kaya pwede pang mabenta yung brain niya ng medyo mamahalin. Anyway, so yeah, outside the commerce of man, no, kapag sale ng body organs pero pag donation, pinapayagan naman natin. Okay? And also a requirement for the object ay dapat ito ay transmissible. More particularly with regards the rights. No? Pero all other objects are required to be transmissible in character din naman. Yun nga lang kadalasan ina-apply natin to with regards to transmissibility of rights, no? Kaya shares, pwede mong ibenta, no? Kasi those are rights. Evidence lang by certificates of stock. Pero kung kunwari, yung pagiging anak mo, no? Or yung pagiging tatay, pagiging nanay, pagiging ate, kuya, hindi yan pwedeng ibenta because those are non-transmissible rights. Can you imagine? No, nagiinuman yung mga magulang, yung tatay mo, nakikipag-inuman sa barkada niya, naririnig mo lang siya sabi, pre, bigyan mo nga ako ng 10,000, ikaw na lang tatay nitong anak ko. No, binibenta yung pagiging tatay niya, bawal yun. No, because those rights are non-transmissible in character. And yung requirement natin that the object must be lawful. No, ito applicable na sa lahat. Yan yung sinasabi natin na dapat they are not contrary to law, public morals, public policy, or good customs. No, kaya kung kunwari contract of sale ang pinasok nyo, pero illegal or prohibited drugs naman, no, ang binibenta, and that will be considered na as void. No, considering nga that it is considered unlawful, no, or contrary to law. Now, it must be possible, particularly, pwede natin i-apply yan more, particularly to services. No? Kaya nga, if the services are impossible from the beginning or hindi naman talaga kakayaning gawin, whether physical or legal impossibility man, ito ay nagiging void na, no? For lack of a valid object. Okay? And dapat determinable or determinate rather, or at least determinable. No, ang idea natin dito ng pagiging determinable ay hindi nakakailanganin pa ng separate contract in order to identify the object, no, ng ating kontrata. Okay? And again, sabi natin kailan nagiging determinate kapag ito ay particularly designated na. Okay, like for example, ikaw ay binentahan ng kotse, naka-identify na kung ano ang plate number, no, or conduction number for that matter. Okay? Or kung kunwari bibenta ka ng mga bagay na mayroong serial number as they would normally use to identify other items, okay, particularly designated na yan. Or if it is already physically segregated. Okay, anong ibig sabihin na segregated na siya? Segregated from the others, no, which may fall within the same genus. Kaya ngayon sinasabi na my only TV set, no, my only sofa set, okay, kasi excluded na yung other TV sets or yung other sofa sets sa buong mundo. Okay, kaya nagiging determinate na kahit wala namang naging particular designation. Okay? So this will be our requirements with regards the object of a contract. Ito lang, as a rule, no, we cannot include inheritance or future inheritance as a subject matter of a contract because this will be considered as contrary to public policy. No, kasi ang sistema dito, kunwari itong si S, no, senior, ayan, tapos may S junior. Itong si S junior, sinasabi niya na sa buyer, bilhin mo na yung mamanahin ko. No, ibig sabihin hindi pa namamatay itong si S senior, binibenta na ni S junior kung ano yung possible na mamanahin niya. Eh bakit naman niya nagiging void, no? Kasi sir, sa contract of sale pinapayagan naman yung sale of future things. No, bakit pag future inheritance bawal? Kasi it creates a motivation, okay, on the part of the seller and the buyer na baka pabilisin nila yung pagpapamana, no? Ibig sabihin baka patayin nila si S senior, kaya pinagbabawalan ng batas na binibenta natin yung ating future inheritance, okay? Yun nga lang, meron din namang mga kontrata na technically ay future inheritance ang nako-cover, no? Kaya kunwari, yung mga tinatawag natin dito na marriage settlements, okay? Or in layman's terms, ang tawag natin dyan ay prenup, no? Kaya bago pa ikasal yung mag-asawa, pwede na mapag-usapan dyan kagad kung paano hahatiin yung mamanahin, no? Allowed naman yun, okay? Or kung sakali, yung mga tinatawag natin na partition inter vivos. Okay, in partition inter vivos, hinahati-hati na yung mga property ng magpapamana, okay, habang siya ay nabubuhay pa. Kaya lang pinapayagan niyang dalawa kasi nagpa-participate din mismo yung magpapamana. No, kasi kunwari sa partition inter vivos, maraming lupa ang tatay mo. No, sasabi ng tatay mo, "Oh, ikaw nak, gagawin kita or bibigay ko sa iyo yung lupa natin doon sa Ilocos, no, at sa Pangasinan. At ikaw ang gagawin kong Warden of the North." No, tapos yung anak ko namang isa, yung kapatid mo, bibigay ko sa kanya ang lupa natin sa Davao, sa Mindanao, no, at tatawagin natin siyang Warden of the South. No, allowed naman 'yan. Okay, kasi nga yung mismong naghahati-hati ay yung magpapamana naman. Okay, kaya in a way, no, they create an exception to the rule that supposedly future inheritance cannot be the valid object of a contract. Okay? Now, with regards the third, na ating essential element will be cause or consideration. Ang tinatanong natin dito ay why, okay, a party, no, would enter into an obligation under the contract. Okay? Otherwise stated, yan ang nagiging dahilan, no, kung bakit niya pinasok yung kontrata to start with. Okay? Now, dito, yung cost or consideration natin ay nakadepende sa classification ng kontrata. No? Kaya nga dito, yung classification of a contract as to cost or consideration can be onerous. No? Ano ang nagiging dahilan? Bakit yung mga parties enter into an onerous contract? The prestation of the other party, no? Or kung ano yung kanilang gagawin under that contract. Kaya nga kung kunwari, you have your contract of sale. No, ang magiging cost or consideration dito kay seller will be the payment of the price. Okay, kasi yan ang obligation dito ng buyer or ang kanyang prestation. Ano naman ang cost or consideration dito kay buyer? Yung delivery. Okay, and the transfer of ownership with regards to the object, okay, which is the obligation of the seller naman, no? Kaya nga kapag onerous contract, ang nagiging cause or consideration natin ay kung ano ang required na gawin ng other party to the contract. Unlike kapag ito ay tinatawag nating gratuitous, okay, or lucrative contracts as sometimes they are referred to, no? Minsan yan ang term na ginagamit. Ang nagiging dahilan lang on the part of the debtor, bakit niya pinapasok yung obligation, ay yung kanyang kagandahang loob. No? Kaya nga liberality of the benefactor or yung tinatawag na pure beneficence. No? Kagandahang loob lang. Kasi ang idea natin sa gratuitous contract ay wala namang natatanggap. No? Yung party who is obliged under the gratuitous contract. No? Kaya nga kadalasan, ang ginagamit natin diyang example ay donation. Kasi si donor, wala namang natatanggap. No? Or pwede rin dyan yung comodatum. No? Kung saan nagpapahiram, no, ng gamit at pinapagamit doon sa bail or sa recipient ng object nang wala namang binabayaran. Okay? Kaya essentially, gratuitous na yung nagiging tawag natin. Okay? And lastly, meron tayong tinatawag na remuneratory contracts na supposedly past services already rendered, no, ang nagiging cost or consideration. Or sa ating kultura, no, yan yung tinatawag nating pagtatanaw ng utang na loob. Okay, pagtatanaw ng utang na loob. Okay, kaya kung kunwari, no, ikaw mula bata ka, yung yaya mo, siya pa rin ang yaya mo until now, hanggang sa maging partner ka ng auditing firm. No, at sobrang yaman mo na, sumusweldo ka na at a minimum na 350,000 a month. And yes, no, ganyan talaga ang sweldo pag ikaw ay partner na. Ano, kailangan mo lang magtiis ng medyo matagal na kaya mong tiisin na mababa ang sweldo mo. No, para bago ka pag naging partner ka na ganun na kalaki. Sabi mo kay Yaya, Yaya, no, pwede ka nang mag-retire, no? Kasi naman partner na ako. Partner na ako, mayaya pa rin ako. So pwede ka na mag-retire, binilang kita ng lupa, no, dito sa probinsyang ito para mag-farm ka na lang kung gusto mo. Para kasama mo yung mga kamag-anak mo, kung may mga anak sila, mga apo mo, no, pwede nilang sabihin na paglaki nila, lumaki po ako sa farm. No, kaya binigyan mo ngayon siya ng lupa sa pagtatanaw ng utang na loob. Okay? But technically speaking, as we go along the discussion, lalo-lalo na when we get to specific rules, no, with regards to types of contracts, a remuneratory contract will be classified under gratuitous na. No, kasi technically naman ay at the time the contract was entered into, wala namang natatanggap talaga dyan yung party obliged. No? Kaya ganyan na rin ang naging treatment dyan ng Supreme Court na kahit remuneratory yung pinasok nilang transaction, sinubject pa rin sa donor's tax. No? Kasi nga wala namang nagiging valuable consideration on the part of the giver. Okay? Kaya pag sinabing past services already rendered, it's not considered a valuable consideration, nagiging gratuitous pa rin. Okay? Ang nagiging treatment natin. Magmamatter yan later on when we discuss yung ating rules on interpretation, okay, ng mga kontrata at yung presumption of fraud. No? Kasi yan yung nagkakaroon ng distinction between an onerous and a gratuitous contract. No? Kaya wala ng third classification under the Civil Code. Again, pag remuneratory, we will classify it under gratuitous with regards the application of rules, no, that we will be discussing. Siguro, no, ihihiwalay lang natin yung remuneratory as a separate type of contract, okay, as to cause or consideration for objective type questions lang. Okay, kapag kasi mas specific na, no? Kung kunwari ang tanong sa exam, okay, which of the following contracts, the cost of which is past services already rendered, remuneratory ang isasagot natin. No, hindi ka naman bumamatigas, hindi, naalala ko yung sabi ni Attorney Nico, talagang gratuitous din daw yan, so gratuitous na isasagot ko. Pag objective type questions, ika-classify mo naman as remuneratory. No? Pag yung application lang ng rules, ang pinag-uusapan natin na inilalagay natin siya under gratuitous. Okay? Ngayon, with regards the rules on cost, may tatlong requirements tatlong requirements with regards the cost in order to be valid, no? Unang-una ay dapat meron. Okay? Kaya sinasabi dito na supposedly the cost must be existing. Kaya nagiging void na or non-existent ang kontrata if there is no cost or consideration. Because again, the cost or consideration is an essential element for purposes of validity and perfection. Now, wala rin tayo nagiging valid contract kung sakaling unlawful ang cost natin. Kaya nga ang nagiging requirement dyan ay dapat lawful, no, ang cost or consideration na meron tayo. And dapat totoo. Okay? Kasi sinasabi ng batas that if there is a cost but the cost is false, no, or peke for that matter, okay, nagiging void na rin. Yun nga lang itong pangatlo natin dyan, meron kasi itong exception. No, na kung sakaling there's another cause upon which the contract is founded, na in that case, valid na rin ang magiging transaction between them. No, at itong exception na ito, that's precisely what we referred to last time as relative simulation. No, na sinabi na natin na nagkakaroon lang or rather that the parties will be bound by their true agreement. No? Kaya if you remember, ang naging example natin dyan ay supposedly may sale, no? Pero wala naman pilang binayaran yung buyer. No? Kaya they made it appear na ito ay contract of sale pero ang totoong transaction pala nila ay donation. Kaya yung cost as it would appear in the contract will be the payment of the price, okay, on the part of the supposed seller. Pero yun pala, ang cost talaga natin will be his mere liberality kasi donation talaga yung pinapasok nilang transaction. And take note, now that when we talk about the requirements, these are presumed by law. Okay, kahit supposedly silent ang ating kontrata at walang binanggit na it is presumed that the cause exists and that it is lawful. Na para nga we are leaning towards the validity of the contract pa rin. Na kaya pag silent ang problem, pagdating natin sa exam, walang binanggit na cause or consideration, hindi ka agad-agad na, uy, void to kasi walang nabanggit na cause doon sa problem. Hindi. Because we presume the existence of the cause and that it is lawful. Okay? Now, take note lang that when we talk about inadequacy of the price, ang general rule natin ay wala yung epekto. Now, with regards the validity of the contract. Kaya kung kunwari dito, meron kang seller, nagbenta kay buyer ng lupa. No, dito ang fair market value ng lupa natin ay 10 million pesos, pero binenta lang niya at a selling price of 4 million pesos. Ano ngayon ang status ng kontrata? Valid. No, considering nga that there will be no effect on the contract just because the price is inadequate. Kahit pa sabihin niya na gross inadequacy, na sobra-sobra kaya yung pagkalugi, in that case hindi pa rin maaapektuhan yung validity ng contract natin sa general rule. Except kung if the law would classify it otherwise, Kasi kung kunwari, ang seller natin dito ay guardian. Tapos yung lupa pala ay sa ward. Kaya in that case dito, dahil magsasuffer ng tinatawag nating lesion na 6 million, okay, which is 60% of the total value of the property under the law, it is now considered rescissible. Dahil property yan ng ward or that of an absentee, okay, na binenta ng guardian or ng representative respectively, basta nagsuffer ng lesion na more than 1/4. In that case, nagiging rescissible na. So there's a specific classification provided by law relative to the inadequacy of the price. Okay? Or kung sakasakali naman dito, that the reason kung bakit nagkaroon ng inadequacy of the price is dahil may vitiation of consent, because there is fraud, there is mistake, okay, or there was undue influence. Kaya pumayag yung seller natin na ibenta ng napakababang presyo. In which case, hindi na siya valid. Nagiging voidable na. Kaya ang transaction natin because of the vitiation of consent. Okay? And take note also that when we talk about cost or consideration, this is different from what we call a motive. Yung motive, yan yung kunwari sa kasal, may specific color required. Joke lang. That's the underlying basis, kung bakit may ganong transaction na pinapasok. Kaya the unlawfulness, or illegality of the motive will not affect the validity of the contract also. Because again, under the law, the motive is different from the cause or consideration. Kaya kung kunwari, meron ka ditong seller, nagbenta dito kay buyer ng baril. License naman siya to do that, Kaya dito magbabayad naman ng price ang ating buyer sa ating seller. Pero ang motive on the part of the buyer, kaya niya binibili pala itong baril na to ay para patayin yung kanyang ex. Ayan. Okay, yan ang nagiging motive na meron siya. Kaya nagiging unlawful yung motive, Pero it does not affect the validity of the contract. Kasi pag tinanong pa rin dyan, ano ang cost or consideration sa seller? Yung payment ng price. Ano ang cost or consideration on the part of the buyer? The delivery and transfer of ownership over the gun. Kaya again, it does not affect the validity of the contract just because the motive can be considered illegal, okay, or unlawful. Kasi nga magkaiba ang concept natin ng motive at ng cost or consideration. So yan na, yung mga tinatawag nating essential elements, tatlo nga yan, yung ating consent, okay, object certain, consent, okay, object certain, at yung ating cause or consideration. Yan ang nagiging tatlong essential elements na kakailanganin for purposes of perfection. Yun nga lang, meron kasi tayong tinatawag na mga real contracts. Kaya ito, yung delivery ay nagiging pang-apat. Okay, na essential element. Kaya pag tinanong, ano ang essential elements ng real contracts? Consent, object, cause, and delivery. Okay, apat ang nagiging essential elements. And incidentally, ang mga klase ng real contracts na meron tayo ay apat lang din. Okay, meron tayong tinatawag na deposit for safekeeping, may pledge, na nagiging security. Okay, ito secure another a principal obligation. May comodatum, ito may sabi na kanina na nagpapahiram ng object, and a contract of loan, or mutuum. Okay, na supposedly ay nagpapahiram pero nagkakaroon ng transfer of ownership. Kaya kung kunwari, itong si X, meron silang transaction nito ni Y, na supposedly, itong si X ay magpapautang ng pera, okay, amounting to 100,000 pesos. Nag-agree na sila, ano ang due date, nag-agree na magkano ang interest, ano ang terms of payment na meron. So meron ng consent, may object, and again, kahit hindi binanggit, we presume that the cause exists, okay, and that it is lawful. Ang tanong ngayon, hanggat hindi na di-deliver yung 100,000, meron na ba silang contract of loan? Wala pa. Kasi nga, dapat nagkaroon muna ng delivery in order for the real contract to be considered valid and existing. Considering nga that delivery will be a fourth essential element with regards to real contracts. Now, on the other hand, meron tayong tinatawag na mga formal contracts kung saan ang pang-apat na essential element nila will be the formality. Sometimes, ang tawag dito ay solemn contracts. Okay, or in some instances, ang tawag natin ditong kinakailangan na pang-apat na element ay solemnity. Now, which is technically the required form. Ibig sabihin dito, ito yung nagkakaroon ng mga formal requirements that will be a requirement for purposes of validity, okay, or perfection of the contract, no? Kaya kahit again, meron ka na consent, may object, may cause, pero hanggat wala yung form required by law, nagiging void pa rin or non-existent yung kontrata. Kaya hanggat hindi tayo nagko-comply with the formal requirements. So those will be our essential elements of a contract. So pupunta na ngayon tayo sa forms. Now, as a general rule, wala namang requirement, no? Kasi nga general rule pa rin natin is that a contract is consensual in character. Na basta meron ng consent as to the object and the cause, may perfected contract na tayo. Okay? Yun nga lang sa batas, may mga tinatawag na formal requirements. No, yun nga lang dito, ika-clarify lang din natin, no, that the formal requirements, gin-group na lang natin yan into 3. No, tatlong grupo. May requirements tayo for validity, okay? Merong requirements for enforceability at meron tayong requirements in order to affect third persons or for convenience purposes. Okay? Nagiging formal requirements. Pero yung pinag-usapan natin kanina or kanina lang, no, na tinatawag na formal contracts or solemn contracts, saan yan? Dito lang. Sa una, now, dito yung tinatawag nating mga formal contracts, okay? Where supposedly the form becomes an essential element of the contract. So, dun lang yon when it is required for purposes of validity, okay? With regards to second and third requirements of the form, now, hindi na yan or hindi na nagiging void just because hindi nag-execute nung required form na meron tayo. So, anong example natin itong mga required ang form for purposes of validity? Yung donations, no? Kasi nabanggit na natin na kapag donation of real property, ito dapat naka-public instrument. Okay, kapag ito naman ay donation of personal property tapos involving an amount of more than 5,000, required naman natin yan to be in writing. No? And again, the same formal requirements will be applicable with regards the acceptance. No? And again, as we have mentioned last time, kung hindi nga mako-comply itong formal requirements na ito, nagiging void na, no, yung donation kasi nga requirement siya for validity. Now, other examples with regards stipulation to pay interest, which the law requires to be in writing. Okay? Kaya kahit tag-usap kayo, magbabayad ng interest pero hindi naman in writing, void, no? Ang stipulation na yon dahil nga required for validity na dapat stipulated in writing yung pagbabayad ng interest. Okay? And the sale of large cattle, na tatlo ang formal requirements natin. Dapat yan naka-public instrument. Okay? Pangalawa ay supposedly registered. Okay? Itong nagiging sale na ito at nagkakaroon ng tinatawag na certificate of sale. Okay? And again, yung tatlong yan will be a requirement for purposes of validity. No? Kaya pag may hindi ka lang na-comply na isa, void na. Okay? Yung nagiging sale na or transfer ng large cattle. Okay? Kaya nga sa totoo lang, under the Cattle Registration Decree, no, that's the law that governs the sale of large cattle, okay? It will be more difficult to sell. No? Mas mahirap ang magbenta ng baka, okay, kaysa magbenta ng kotse. Okay, ganun katindi. Yung mga requirements dito, makabenta ka lang ng baka, ng kalabaw, no? Kasi nga lahat 'yan are requirements for purposes of validity. And with regards to the contribution of real property in a partnership, kasi kung sakaling nagbenta ka or nag-contribute ng real property, ang nagiging requirement natin diyan ay dapat nagkakaroon kayo ng inventory. Okay, tapos yung inventory na yan must be signed by the partners and attached, okay, supposedly to a public instrument. Now, and again, lahat ng yan will be a requirement for purposes of validity or otherwise stated, if we don't comply with the formal requirements, the transaction will be considered void na. Okay? Ganun din, hindi ko alam bakit wala sa slides ko, no? Pero para madagdag ko na lang, one of the things na natanong na sa board exam dati ay yung authority ng agent na magbenta ng lupa. Okay? Kasi ang sitwasyon dito, merong principal, inauthorize niya yung agent niya to sell. Okay? Real or land for that matter. Okay? Nagbebenta ng lupa. No? Kaya kung kunwari, itong ating authority given to the agent is oral, pero itong si agent nung binenta niya yung lupa dito kay buyer, naka-public instrument naman. No? Ano ang nagiging status nitong contract of sale na ito? Magiging void na. No? Kasi ang nire-require natin dyan ay dapat yung authority ng agent na ito must be in writing. No? And again, that will be a requirement for purposes of the sale entered into by the agent to be valid. No? Kaya nagiging formal requirement tuloy as to the authority of the agent to sell na dapat yung authority niya ay in writing. No? Para nga maging valid yung sale na pinasok niya. Kaya ito, kahit naka-public instrument pa yung sale niya, pero hindi naman in writing yung authority, magiging void pa rin yung sale. No? Kasi yung authority, ang nire-require natin dito na dapat in writing. Okay? Now, with regards to enforceability, dito pumapasok yung tinatawag nating statute of frauds. No? At ang nagiging epekto dito or ang requirement natin dito ay dapat sila ay in writing. Okay? Or hindi naman sobrang strict dito, no, na kahit daw some note or memorandum. Okay? Ibig sabihin lang dyan, basta hindi dapat oral evidence. Okay? Ang magiging ang gagamitin mo to prove the existence of the contract. No? Ang requirement natin dito ay dapat in writing yan. Kasi ang idea nga kaya tinatawag siya na statute of frauds ay dahil susceptible to fraud. No? Itong mga transactions na ito na possibly ay pwedeng panggalingan ng problema tapos magiging pag nagkaroon ng kasuhan, no, it will be your word against mine. No? And we supposedly cannot rely solely on human memory. Kaya nire-require dito na may document man lang, no, that will evidence the existence of the contract. Otherwise, the contract will be unenforceable because again, you cannot present oral evidence in order to prove the existence of the contract. Okay, kung yan ang magiging purpose niyan, no? Kaya nga ito ginagamit yan pang object. Okay, kasi kung kunwari covered ng statute of frauds tas hindi in writing ang kontrata, may nagpe-presenta ngayon ng oral evidence doon sa korte para to prove the existence of the contract, dapat may magsasabi niya ng objection, Your Honor, statute of frauds, no? Na dapat in writing yan. Kung ang purpose ng testimony will be to prove the existence of the contract. Hindi pwedeng yung oral evidence or oral testimony lang. Okay? Sir, paano po yung mga sa province na nagbebentahan na baka without the three requisites po? What do you mean? Yung sa large cattle? No, I suppose actually pag farmers they are more aware of that. No, with regards that requirement. Considering kasi na narehistrado nga no yung kanilang mga large cattle. Okay, kaya I suppose they would be informed by the cattle registration or cattle registry no na may ganung requirements in order to validly transfer the sale. No, kaya ito kasi kadalasan din ang mahirap kasi sa batas no ay kung ano lang yung applicable sa iyo, yun lang ang alam mo. No, kadalasan ganyan ang nagiging sitwasyon. Kaya yan din ang medyo mahirap pag ikaw ay nag-aaral ng CPA board exam. Sa dami ng kailangan aralin, hindi mo naman ma-imagine kung paano mag-a-apply sa iyo. Iba nakakatamad tuloy, no? Na parang hindi mo naman magagamit, no? Nagiging ganoon yung effect. Pero yan no, with regards to that, I suppose the farmers are actually more aware no of those requirements compared to us, no? Na hindi naman talaga tayo nagtatransact on large cattle. Okay? Kasi medyo weird nga naman, no? Nag-aaral ka na para maging CPA, tapos ang ordinary course of trade or business mo ay nagbebenta ka ng mga baka, di ba? Parang nasa maling lugar ka kung sakali. Pero usually they would be more aware of that. Okay? Pero if they are not aware of that and they don't comply no, with the requirements, magiging void yung transfer or yung sale ng large cattle nila. Okay? Ngayon, there are 6 transactions that will be covered by the statute of frauds. Okay? Una na dito, lahat ng klase ng kontrata pero yung performance ng contract will not be within 1 year. No? Or ibig sabihin, sisimulan pa lang yan after a year pa. No? Kaya again, we cannot just rely on human memory. Kapag nagka-problema dito na after that 1 year, tapos ipe-perform ng kontrata, ayaw na ng isang party, mahirap patunayan yung existence nung napag-usapan nila. No? Kaya nagiging unenforceable na lang yung kontrata natin. Okay? Pangalawa, will be with regards those contracts similar to a guarantee, okay, a surety. No? Yan yung mga example natin dito. Kasi ang nagiging purpose nito ay ikaw ay nagiging literal na guarantor, no? Na kung sakaling ang yung debtor ay hindi ma-perform ang obligation, sinasalo mo, no? Kaya sinatawag siyang special promise to answer for the default or the miscarriage of another party. And again, no, dapat yan ay in writing para meron kang panghahawakan. Kasi imagine, kunwari siningil mo na yung debtor tapos hindi nagbayad. Pumunta ka ngayon sa guarantor, sabi mo, "Oy, hindi nagbayad yung debtor mo, magbayad ka." So, hindi ko po maalala, Your Honor. No, biglang ganun lang sasabihin. Kaya kailangan nga in writing, no, para may panghahawakan ka that the contract of guarantee actually exists. Okay? And with regards contracts that are in consideration of marriage. Now, take note lang na nagiging exception natin dyan na hindi na kailangan pang in writing yan kapag ang nagiging basis natin ay mutual promise to marry. Ang nagiging required lang to be in writing ay kung in consideration of marriage which is not based no, on the mutual promise to marry. Same din po ba concept ng co-maker? Hindi. Kasi pag co-maker ka, technically you are solidarily liable. Okay, ganun na nagiging situation, no? Hindi siya nagiging special promise to answer lang in case of default, no, of the principal debtor. Okay, nagiging secondarily liable ka dyan sa second paragraph. Kapag ikaw ay co-maker, you are primarily liable also in the contract. Okay, kaya magkaiba ng concept. Now, when we talk about a co-maker and a guarantor, okay? Pero depende pa rin syempre sa magiging terms no, na pinipirmahan mo. Pero kadalasan nga yan, in writing naman yung pagiging co-maker. Okay, wala naman tao talaga pumunta sa bangko, sabi lang niya, akong bahala dyan. Walang ganun. Talagang normally naman pinapasulat yan. Sir, paano po yung hindi mutual promise to marry? Ito nga, no, may nagtanong lang kasi. Kalma-kalma lang tayo. Sinasagot muna natin yung tanong, pero meron tayong example. I know ano talaga, I promise you, I know when the concept would be something not easy to grasp, no? Kaya tayo nagbibigay ng example para you can imagine how it's going to be applied. No? Kaya pag nag-aaral din talaga tayo ng RBT, ganyan ang approach natin. Ang goal mo, again, is to understand the concept. No, yan ang din ang nagiging approach natin, no? Kaya sa handouts ninyo, nakalagay talaga siya na word per word, no, ng mga provisions ng batas kasi kadalasan codal din yung nagiging question para may sense of familiarity. But when we discuss them, we try to deal with it from a conceptual standpoint, no, na kung paano natin ina-apply, no, itong mga provisions na ito. Kaya ganyan ang goal din dapat pag kayo ay nag-aaral, no? Yung pag-intindi, kaya ang nagiging focus mo. Okay? Kaya I would suggest nga na sana meron kayong mga study groups, no, kahit online kayo, mag-Zoom kayo once a week, no, na magbabatuhan lang kayo ng tanong sa isa't isa kasi iba yung nagiging approach mo sa aral kapag gano'n ang gawain mo and it gives you a better understanding of how you understood the concept or kung may kailangan bang i-adjust. No? Now, pagkatapos nun, kapag naintindihan mo na, magsasagot tayo ng multiple choice questions, no, para nga ma-check natin kung tama ba yung pagkakaintindi natin, no, or kung kailangan pang i-adjust itong mga bagay na ito. No? Kaya gano'n na nagiging approach. Kaya normally nga, when I encounter a provision then which I think no it's not easily understandable by itself, we will provide examples para nga you can have a better grasp. No, lalong-lalo na pag dito yung obligations, contracts, sales, credit transactions, partnerships. No? Kasi yan yung mga traditional topics na nagkakaroon ng case type na questions, no? Or yung mga problem type questions pagdating sa RFBT. Okay? Kaya ganun din yung nagiging approach natin, even in the pre-board. No? Anyway, so balik tayo dyan, no? Na in consideration of marriage. Okay? Kunwari ito, in one Supreme Court case, no, meron ditong ganitong sitwasyon. Si H&W ay nagmamahalang tunay, no? Kaya sila ay ikakasal na. Okay? Ikakasal na sila. So dahil ikakasal na sila, etong si X na tatay ni H, no, ay nag-promise supposedly na gagawin niya yung bahay ni Y. Na tatay naman ni W. Kasi yung mag-asawa or rather yung mag-fiancé, pag sila ay kinasal na, doon sila titira sa bahay ni Y. No, kaya si X nag-promise kay na gagawin niya yung bahay. Ngayon naghiwalay. Kaya etong dalawa na kasi hindi talaga tugma or hindi tama ang timing, no, toxic lang sila sa isa't, di ba? May mga hugot ng kung ano-ano kung bakit naghihiwalay. Merong mga tao talaga na hindi lang tugma para sa isa't isa. Na-realize nila yan bago sila ikasal, kaya sila ay naghiwalay. Ang tanong ngayon dito, ano ang magiging status nitong promise ni X? Okay, para bawiin or para gawin yung bahay ni Y. Magiging demandable or enforceable pa rin ba yan? The answer is no. No, yan yung agreement na supposedly in consideration of marriage. No, na kaya lang naman gagawin ni X yung bahay ni Y ay dahil supposedly nga doon titira yung mga bata pag sila ay kinasal na. No, kaya, di ba, gusto mo yung pagiging tito ko, ang term ko talaga doon sa may kakasal ay mga bata. Okay? Na supposedly nga, no, in consideration of their marriage, na hindi na nag-materialize, kaya magiging unenforceable na yung obligation dyan ni X towards Y. Ngayon, kung kunwari naman, itong si H ang nagkaso kay W, no, for the recovery of damages. More specifically, ang nire-recover niya dito ay yung mga deposits. No, kasi nagbayad na siya sa florist, nagbayad na sa simbahan, sa venue, sa coordinator, sa caterer. No, yan ngayon ang nagiging cause of action kung bakit siya naniningil dito kay W. Now, in that case, mare-recover niya ba yan or pwede niya bang i-enforce, no, itong obligation na ito na mag-reimburse si W kahit wala silang in writing na agreement? The answer is yes. No, kasi ang basis ng nagiging claim ni H towards W ay yung mutual promise to marry. Okay, in fact, no, yan specifically in torts, yun yung subject dyan, na kung saan dinidiscuss ito. Sa torts, no, ang tawag dyan ay breach of mutual promise to marry, no, which will be a valid cause of action to recover damages. Okay, kasi factual ang nagiging basis dito dahil nga binayaran ng mga yan dahil nangako ka magpakasal. Tapos kung hindi ka matutuloy na magpakasal for whatever reason, in that case, no, pwedeng i-recover itong damages na ito dun sa mga deposits na binayad na. So yan, no, pwedeng mag-progress ito pero yung isa hindi. Okay, kasi nga in consideration of marriage lang siya pero hindi base, no, dahil hindi naman nangako si X at Y sa isa't isa na ikakasal sila. Si H at W lang. No, yung may mutual promise to weird mga tatay mo. No? Mga tatay nila, sila mismo yung nag-usap na, "De pre, kakasal din tayo." No, walang ganun. Okay? Sir, yung requirement po ba na must be in writing, at least in writing po ba? Tapos pwede ding public instrument? Of course. No? Kasi wala namang public instrument na hindi in writing. Okay? Kaya it's more if you're going to take it from a level to level standpoint, in writing and then public instrument. No? In writing, public instrument. Or private instrument, public. Ganun din ang ibig sabihin. Ang idea lang pag public instrument kasi mas malawak ang mga naapektuhan. Okay, hindi lang yung parties. No? Unlike pag private instrument, kadalasan ang apektado nga lang dyan ay yung mga parties lamang. Good morning po, attorney. Kapag po yung guarantee ay hindi in writing, yung guarantee lang po ba ang unenforceable? Yung principal contract po ay valid pa rin? Yes. No? Again, yung special promise lang ang nagiging unenforceable. And wala tayong rule na yung principal follows the accessory. A guarantee contract is still an accessory contract lang. No? And the invalidity or unenforceability of the unaccessory contract will not in any way affect the principal obligation that it guarantees or it secures. Okay? Kaya ito, hopefully clear tayo with regards this, no? Yung mutual promise to marry. Okay? And that of based on in consideration of marriage lamang. Ngayon, pang-apat, no? Ito, sale Na unang-una, contract of sale lang ang pinag-uusapan. At ang object natin dito ay personal property lang. Okay? Kaya sinasabi na goods, chattels, things in action. Ibig sabihin, movable property na ang pinag-uusapan natin. At may requirement dito na yung price must be at least 500 pesos na in order to be covered by the statute of frauds. Otherwise stated, kapag nagkaroon kayo ng bentahan na ang presyo ay 500 or higher, pero hindi ginawa in writing, unenforceable din yung kontrata na iyan. Okay? Nagiging unenforceable din. May special rule lang dito na nakaspecify pa na kapag binenta yan by auction, okay, yung pagbebenta natin by auction tapos nagkaroon ng entry sa tinatawag na sales book, okay, or auction book ng auctioneer, magiging valid entry na yon or magiging valid document na. Now that will prove the existence of the contract. Okay, ganun na magiging idea natin dyan. Pero yun nga, sa sale of personal property lang, ito. Okay? On the other hand, pag sale of real property naman, hindi dito, dalawa ang transaction dyan. Okay? Una will be release, okay, ng real property, tapos more than 1 year ang term, and kasama dito yung sale of real property. Okay, yan ang dalawang transaction na kino-cover nitong fifth paragraph natin. Okay? And as we will discuss no, later on when we get to unenforceable contracts, very strict lang tayo with regards to what will be covered by the statute of frauds. So we will provide examples later on. Ngayon lang, I wanted to enumerate the transactions that will be covered, but we will deal with the specific rules that will be applicable to them when we get to unenforceable contracts na. Okay? And lastly, if it will be a representation with regards to the credit of a third person, dapat din yan in writing no, in order to be considered enforceable. So again, there are 6 transactions covered by the statute of frauds. Ang nagiging epekto niya na sa general rule is that you cannot use oral testimony or oral evidence to prove the existence of the contract. Okay? Kaya ang nagiging requirement nga ay dapat sila ay in writing in order for the transaction to be enforceable. Okay? Which again, the formal requirements will be pertaining to enforceability of the contract. But we will be discussing later on no, na initially ay pwede siyang covered ng statute of frauds, no? Pero nagkakaroon tayo ng mga instances na pwede nang ilabas no sa statute of frauds ito na nagiging enforceable na kahit hindi siya in writing. No? We will be discussing that later on. For now lang, for purposes of the rules with regards to formal requirements, I wanted to enumerate lang itong statute of frauds. No? But we will be discussing later on yung application natin ng rules dyan. Clarify ko lang po, attorney, kahit po naka-in writing yung in consideration po ng marriage, void pa rin po ba siya if hindi matutuloy ang kasal? Hindi na, no? Magiging enforceable pa rin. Kaya yun nga lang dyan, from a case-to-case basis lang din, nakakahiya naman. Imagine ikaw yung tatay nung humiwalay, tapos ipipilit mo pa rin. No? Ganun na nagiging idea. But that wasn't the focus of the case. Now, the focus of the case was more on the application of the statute of frauds. Okay, and take note, the requirements here will be only with regards to enforceability but not the validity of the transaction. Okay? It will not in any way affect the validity. Ang question lang ay kung enforceable ba or hindi. No? Kasi kung validity requirement yung form dito, dun yun sa kaninang requirements natin na pwedeng maging void. No? Ganun na magiging premise niya. Now, the third requirement will be for convenience or ito nga yung sinasabi natin na pwede na maapektuhan ng third party. Kaya ang requirement nga dito ay dapat naka-public instrument. Itong mga transaction na ito. Take note lang that when we talk about being in a public instrument, this will not in any way affect the validity of the contract as between the parties. No, ibig sabihin ang kontrata natin dito ay valid na, no, enforceable na kahit naka-private instrument lang between the parties. Yun nga lang hindi apektado pa, no, yung mga third parties to the contract. Kaya ginagawang in a public instrument, ang purpose lang will be to affect the third parties, pero hindi naapektuhan yung validity at enforceability ng kontrata. No, kaya dito pinapasok natin everything that will be involving real rights. No, kaya dito whether that will be a sale, a mortgage, a donation, or hindi isali donation, a sale, a mortgage, no, basta involving real rights and to affect third persons, dapat yan ay public instrument. But take note, sa enforceability natin, ang requirement lang ay in writing. No, kaya nga pag sinabi dito na nagkaroon tayo ng sale of land, okay, sale of land, tapos ito ay naka-private instrument. Okay, anong magiging status niyan? Valid and enforceable na. No, yun nga lang, it's valid only between the parties, no, and will not be affecting third persons. Okay? Kaya ginagawang in a public instrument para lang maapektuhan pero it will not in any way affect the validity of the contract already entered into. Kahit pa in writing lang yung sale ng land natin. Okay? Pangalawa ay may kinalaman naman sa mana. No, ibig sabihin dito pag sinabi natin nagkaroon ng session, binigay mo sa iba. Pag sinabi natin repudiation or renunciation, hindi mo tinanggap, no, yung mana, okay? Or yung inheritance, no, that you would have otherwise receive. Or kung kunwaring merong mga conjugal properties and you are going to renounce also your share, okay, or ibibigay sa ibang tao, kailangan niya naka-public instrument to affect third parties. Now, otherwise, it will be effective only between the parties involved. Okay, kaya nire-require na naka-public instrument pa. Pangatlo, will be with regards to the administration of property. Now, kaya pag power to administer property, in order to be to affect third parties, kailangan din naka-public instrument ito. Okay? And lastly will be those that originally came from a public document. Pag yan ay tatanggalin na natin or ililipat sa ibang tao in order to affect third persons, dapat din in a public instrument ito. Kaya kung kunwari, gumawa ka ng SPA na special power of attorney na naka-public instrument kasi notaryado to appoint an agent. Okay? Kung sakaling ililipat mo yung authority ng agent sa ibang tao at kailangan maapektuhan ng mga third parties, dapat public instrument din yung paglipat ng authority na yan. But again, the requirement of public instrument will not in any way affect the validity or enforceability of the contract. Only for the purpose of affecting third parties. Ang goal lang natin dito ay pinapalawak natin yung nagiging coverage ng kontrata in such a way that even those who are not parties to the contract may be affected also by the contracts you are entering into. Okay? Ngayon, meron lang tayo ditong requirement or rather remedy na pwede mong pilitin yung other party to comply with a specific form. Ang catch lang dito, nakalagay sa batas na dapat valid and enforceable muna yung kontrata before you can invoke this kind of remedy. Kaya otherwise stated, doon sa tatlong requirements na binanggit natin kanina, again, meron tayong requirements for validity, requirement for enforceability, and requirement to affect third persons. Saan mo pwedeng gamitin ang remedy na ito to require specific form? Sa pangatlo lang. Kasi kapag hindi nag-comply sa una, void ang kontrata. Kapag hindi nag-comply sa statute of frauds na in writing, nagiging unenforceable. Kaya hindi applicable sa kanila itong remedy na ito. Mag-a-apply lang yan kapag ang requirement natin will be with regards requirement to affect third persons lang. Kaya kunwari, mabigay tayo example, lupa. Okay, ang subject matter natin dito, ang transaction natin dito ay donation, and the form that was done was in a private instrument. Okay, ang tanong ngayon dito, can you invoke the remedy as mentioned in this slide? Hindi pwede. Because the donation of the land is required to be in a public instrument for validity. Kaya kung yan ay naka-private instrument, magiging void na yung donation na gagawin dito. Okay? Kung sakali naman sale ang pinasok natin pero oral sale of land, pwede mo bang i-invoke ang remedy? Hindi. Kasi mako-cover naman yan ng statute of frauds na sale of real property must be in writing in order to be enforceable. Kaya kung oral sale lang yan ng lupa, hindi mo rin mai-invoke itong ating remedy na ito. Pero kung kunwari yan ay sale, tapos dito naka-private instrument, pwede mo na bang i-invoke na i-require mo yung other party na mag-execute ng public instrument? Pwede na. Okay? Kasi valid and enforceable naman ang kontrata na yan at ang purpose nga lang why nire-require natin yung public instrument will be to affect third parties na lamang. Okay? Kaya dun lang yung magiging instance na pwede mong i-invoke itong remedy provided for by law. Okay? Now, also with regards form would be ang concept natin ng reformation. Ito yung definition na yan, andyan na rin makikita mo yung magiging requisites for reformation as a remedy. Take note, remedy ito. Okay, na pwede mong i-invoke. Ibig sabihin, ang requirements pa rin natin dito ay dapat may meeting of minds. Kaya may iisang transaction lang talaga na napag-agrihan itong mga parties na ito. Yung agreement nila was supposedly provided in a written instrument. Kaya yun nga lang nagkakaroon ng disparity. Na yung supposed intention ng parties natin ay hindi tugma sa kung ano ang nakalagay sa instrument. Kaya nga itong instrument ang ating pinapabago, kung bakit nagkakaroon ng tinatawag na reformation of instrument. Okay? Ang gusto kasi natin dito yung instrument, i-reflect niya kung ano talaga ang true agreement or the true intention of the parties. Kaya pinapapalitan natin yung laman ng instrument sa korte to reflect the true agreement or intention of the parties which was supposedly their meeting of minds. Okay? Now, kailan pwedeng i-invoke ito? Basta, ang idea nga dyan ay hindi tugma. Yung intention or the agreement of the parties ay hindi tugma sa laman ng instrument natin. Okay, whether the disparity, or the what do you call this, the inconsistency was brought about by pareho, when both parties are mistaken, or kung sakaling isang party lang ang mistaken, or kahit third party pa ang mistaken. Dito yung clerk or yung typist na gumawa ng instrument lack the necessary skill, nagkaroon ng negligence or bad faith kaya hindi nagtugma. Kaya nga ang idea lang ay basta hindi tugma ang instrument doon sa intention, pwede na tayong magpa-reformation. Again, whether isang party lang ang nagkamali, pareho man sila, or kahit third party pa ang nagkamali. Okay? More specifically, when we get to the law on sales, meron tayong concept ng tinatawag nating equitable mortgage. Okay, equitable mortgage. Dito, nagkakaroon ng transaction. Kunwari si X, magdi-deliver dito kay Y ng kotse, mabibigay itong si Y ng pera. Okay, let's say 500,000. Ang kanilang instrument dito naka-reflect na supposedly yan ay pacto de retro sale. Okay? But there are instances in the loan sales when it can be presumed na ito ay equitable mortgage lang. Bakit ba ginagawa yun ng mga tao? Take note, iba ito dun sa situation natin ng mutual mistake ha. Kasi dun sa mutual mistake natin doon sa ating vitiation of consent, pareho silang nagkamali as to what is the actual transaction. Dito, may agreement with regards what should be the transaction. Iba lang ang nakalagay doon sa instrument that they entered into. No? So they made it appear na pacto de retro sale yan sa kanilang dokumento, no? But any of the circumstances provided would assume no, or presume na ito talaga ay equitable mortgage lang. Now, bakit nga ginagawa ng mga tao yan na pinagmumukha nilang pacto de retro sale? Kasi when we get to the law on credit transactions, may tinatawag tayong prohibition ng pactum commissorium. Now, itong stipulation na ito prohibits the automatic appropriations of objects given by way of pledge or mortgage. Ibig sabihin, pag hindi nakapagbayad ang ating debtor, ang remedy dapat ng creditor ay mag-foreclose. Hindi pwedeng siya kagad ang may-ari ng object na binigay na security. Okay, ganun ang requirement. Kaya tuloy yung ibang tao, ang ginagawa nila, dapat talaga security ang purpose ng object na binibigay dito, no? Pero para ma-circumvent yung prohibition doon sa ating pactum commissorio, ginagawa nilang mukhang pacto de retro sale ang pinapasok nila. No, kaya kunwari yan, the fair market value of the car, let's say was 3 million pesos. No, pero 500,000 lang ang natanggap niya on a supposed sale. So may inadequacy of the price. The law presumes that it can be considered an equitable mortgage. No? Pero factual kasi yan, na depende pa rin sa korte. Pero ang idea nga dyan, the intention of the parties will be a loan secured by the object. No? Pero the document reflects sa pacto de retro sale. Kaya ang babaguhin natin ay yung instrument mismo to reflect the true intention of the parties. Kaya sinasabi na reformation will be the proper remedy. Now, whenever any of the circumstances for equitable mortgage would exist. Okay? Now, sino ang mag-a-ask for reformation? Ang idea lang dito, okay, na pwede, no, ay basta ikaw ay innocent party. Wala kang kinalaman kung bakit hindi reflected no doon sa instrument yung inyong true agreement. Okay? Kaya kung pareho silang may mistake kahit sino sa kanila, no, dahil innocent naman sila pareho, mistaken lang, ang idea wala namang bad faith. No, or kung isa lang, supposedly ang injured party and the other one purposefully na made the instrument non-reflective of their intention, then the injured party lang or the one who is innocent, okay, will be the one allowed to sue for reformation. Take note, however, that reformation will not be proper with regards to a simple donation inter vivos. Okay? Ibig sabihin yan, donation talaga na wala namang condition imposed, hindi natin yan pwedeng ipa-reform. Okay? And wills, no? Itong sa wills, mas logical yan. Kasi hindi mo naman pwedeng sabihin sa korte, hindi po ang sabi po ng papa ang ibibigay niya sa akin ay yung lupa sa norte na mas malaki, kumpara dito sa lupa na nasa Metro Manila na maliit lang. No? Paano natin malalaman kung ano talaga ang intention ng testator, no? Kung siya ay patay na. Okay? It will be very hard to prove the intention of the testator, kaya pinagbabawalan na lang na magkaroon ng reformation or when the original agreement is void. Okay? Kasi ang requirement nga natin ay dapat may mutual meeting of minds, no? Or may meeting of minds between the parties. Kaya kung void ang kontrata, we cannot cure the defect of the contract being void by virtue of reformation lang. No? Hindi yan ang magiging proper remedy natin. Or whenever estoppel will be applicable na. Okay, kasi dito may isang party already sued based on the contract. No, nagkaso na siya na ang basehan niya ay yung instrument mismo. Hindi yan pwedeng later on sabihin niya ay mali pala yung laman ng instrument, no? Kasi kinagkaso ka na, no? Kaya stop na or touch move na at hindi na pwedeng magbago ang isip mo na hindi pala yan dapat reflective sa agreement ng party. So those will be our rules regarding form, no? And the requirements as to form with regards also the reformation as a proper remedy of the parties. Okay? Sige, we'll take our first break. Okay? And when we come back, we'll be discussing now the fundamental characteristics of a contract. Okay, so there will be 5 fundamental characteristics now that will be applicable in all kinds of contracts, beginning with consensuality. Meron tayong autonomy or sometimes referred to as freedom or liberty to contract. Okay, mutuality, obligatory force, and relativity. Okay, isa-isahin naman natin yan, no? Pero at the outset nga, ito yung 5 fundamental characteristics natin. So simulan natin with consensuality. Now there are a few aspects no with regards sa contract being consensual in character, beginning with what we call the perfection, no. Kaya nga sinasabi natin na consensual ang kontrata dahil kung sakasakali na meron ng consent, okay, with regards the object and the cause or consideration perfected na. Except nga lang doon sa tinatawag nating mga formal and real contracts na kinakailangan pa na merong required form at merong delivery for purposes of perfection. But otherwise, as a general rule nga, no, the mere consent or meeting of minds between the parties relative to the object and the cause will make the contract perfected na. Okay? Now, yung pangalawang aspect naman natin ng consensuality ay yung idea na dapat ikaw mismo, no, ang nag-consent sa kontrata bago ka maging liable or obligated under the contract. Okay? Kaya kung kunwari dito meron si O. Ayan, si O kunwari, no, ang may-ari ng cellphone. So kaya O dahil owner. Yung anak niya, si S, kinuha ang cellphone na ito. Na tapos binenta ngayon yan kay B. So the contract of sale here was entered into by S, supposedly in behalf of O. No? Kaya ang nagiging status nitong kontrata na ito ay tinatawag nating unenforceable. Okay? Or yung tinatawag nating unauthorized contracts, no? Because it was entered into by a person in behalf of another without being authorized to do so. Okay? Or kung sakali man na-authorized nga but went beyond, no, the authority that was given, in that case, nagiging unenforceable din yan dun sa supposed represented party, which in this case will be O. No? Kasi ang idea nga dyan ay hindi naman siya ang nagbigay ng consent doon sa kontrata. Kaya from the principle of consensuality, it should be unenforceable as to him, no? Unless, of course, eventually O would ratify the contract. Eh, kasi kung kunwari yan, tinawagan ni BCO, no? Syempre, hindi sumagot, no? Kasi hawak niya nga yung cellphone dahil binibenta ni S, di ba? Mukhang tanga. No? Kaya kung kunwari tinawagan sa landline, sabi niya, oh Brad, nandito yung anak mo, no? Binibenta daw yung cellphone mo. Kaya sabi niya, oo, binibenta ko yan, no? Kaya nung nag-agree na, sabi okay na yan kahit sa kanya man lang ibigay, nagkaroon na tayo ng ratification. Nung supposed lack of authority ay nawawala na kasi magiging authorized na etong si S, no, na ibenta dahil na-ratify naman ni O yung transaction na iyan. Now, the third principle relative to consensuality will be relative to the contract of adhesion. Okay? If anything, when we talk about the validity of the contract, walang effect yan. No, na dahil lang ito ay contract of adhesion. As you may know, in a contract of adhesion, there will be two parties involved. Okay, may dalawang party dito. Yung isang party natin dyan will be the one who prepares the contract, including all the terms and conditions that will be contained therein, no? O yung mga stipulations ng kontrata natin, yung party na yan na rin ang magpe-prepare. And the other party to the contract, okay, would merely adhere. No, ibig sabihin parang take it or leave it, no? Ang datingan sa kanya na kung gusto niya pasukin yung kontrata, tatanggapin niya dapat lahat ng terms na pinrepair na ng other party. Pero kung hindi yan katanggap-tanggap sa kanya, then in that case, hindi niya tatanggapin, no? Kaya sinasabi dito ng Supreme Court, being a contract of adhesion by itself will not affect its validity. Ang idea pa rin dyan, kung hindi pala agreeable sa iyo yung terms ng kontrata, edi sana hindi mo pinasok, no? Kaya ang idea dito, as a rule ay binding pa rin. Okay, ang mga stipulations, even if they are contained, no, in a contract of adhesion. Okay, yun nga lang ito. Okay, kung sakasakali, no, ang magiging effect lang yan, if ever, will be with regards the interpretation of the contract. Kasi kung sakasakali dito na meron tayong stipulations na tinatawag nating doubtful, okay, or obscure for that matter, no, ang magiging interpretation natin dyan will be in favor of the party who did not cause the obscurity. Okay, kasi logical lang naman, no, na ikaw na nga ang gumawa ng kontrata, ngayon merong mga kaduda-dudang provision dyan, nakakahiya naman kung pabor pa sa'yo, no, na ikaw na ang gumawa ng mismong obscurity na ito. Kaya dapat magiging pabor na yan dun sa nag-adhere lang, no. Again, if anything, a contract of adhesion merely would affect the rules on interpretation but not in any way the validity or the binding effect of the stipulations entered into. Hi sir, bakit po ulit di siya void yung by an unauthorized person? Di po ba consent ay essential element? Kasi ang idea doon ay meron pa rin consent. Yun nga lang yung consent was not authorized. No, ganun na nagiging premise na hindi siya mismo. Kasi ang ginagawa doon na party to the contract ay yung owner pa rin. Okay? Kaya supposedly siya yung may lack of consent, pero it doesn't mean that consent cannot be given by an authorized person like an agent. No, allowed naman yun. Kaya by law, it was specifically classified under unenforceable contract. No, at dahil yan ay nakaspecify sa batas at tayo ay mga mortal lang, hindi natin yan kukwestiyonin. Kapag sinabi ng civil code na unenforceable siya, unenforceable ang magiging classification din natin. Okay? So, ito ang magiging concept natin relative to consensuality. Now, on the other hand, when we talk about autonomy or yung tinatawag ng liberty or freedom to contract, the premise here is that any and all kinds of stipulations ay pwedeng pasukin ng mga parties as long as they will not be contrary to law, morals, good customs, public policy, or public order. Or otherwise stated, basta sila ay lawful. No, in that case, magiging allowed na yan kahit gaano ka mukhang tanga. No, kaya kung kunwari, nag-enter kayo into a contract of sale, may requirement doon na nilagay na stipulation. Kailangan pag magbabayad ka, bagong ligo ka. No, magiging mandatory ba? Yes. No, kasi hindi naman contrary to law, morals, public policy yung ganung requirement. Okay? Kaya again, ang idea dito is the unbridled right, no, of the parties to enter into any and all kinds of stipulations that they would want. Okay? So long, again, as they are not contrary to law, morals, public policy, good customs, or public order. Okay? Kaya ito, magbibigay lang tayo ng example, no? Kasi medyo naging case-to-case basis din. Pero yung mga contrary to law, no, yung isa dito na specify na natin sa ating transactions or ating naging discussions. Now, so those that are contrary to law, example niyan will be yung waiver for future fraud. Okay? Because as we have mentioned, there can be no waiver for future fraud. Kaya even if the parties would stipulate to a waiver for future fraud, nagiging void na, no, for being contrary to law. Okay? In a contract of partnership, meron tayong tinatawag na pactum leonina. Now, that is a stipulation that would exclude, okay, a partner relative to the sharing of the profits and losses na nagiging void din by specific provision of the law. Okay? Sa isang mortgage or a pledge, may tinatawag nga tayong pactum commissorium. that will provide for the automatic appropriation, okay, of the object. No? In the case nga na hindi makapagbayad or hindi ma-perform yung ating principal obligation, automatic na nagiging owner, no, yung ating pledgee or yung mortgagee ng object na binigay as security, which again is void by specific provision of the law. And in a real estate mortgage, may tinatawag tayong pactum de non aliendum, which is a stipulation that would prohibit, okay, the alienation, no, of the object or that of the real property subject of the real estate mortgage during the pendency of the real estate mortgage. Kaya ang idea tuloy dito, absolutely allowed dapat, no, na kahit yan ay naka-real estate mortgage, pwede pa rin niyang i-dispose, no, or ibenta for that matter ng mortgagor kahit pa ito ay naka-mortgage, no, kasi bawal pagbawalan. If there's a stipulation that prohibits that's what we call pactum de non aliendo, that will make the stipulation void already. Okay? Sir, ano po yung difference between ang example nyo dun sa sale ng cellphone na unenforceable sa example nyo kanina na may principal na unauthorized yung agent orally? Sale of land. No, that is a specific provision pertaining to the sale of land where the law requires that the authority of the agent must be in writing. No, and yung example natin doon sa agent, meron talaga siyang authority. Yun nga lang hindi in writing. Yung example natin sa cellphone, wala namang authority yung nagbebenta. Okay? Kaya nagiging unauthorized or nagiging unenforceable ang classification. Okay? I hope we're clear with that. Anyway, now those examples naman that can be considered contrary to public policy, may dalawang case na example dyan. No? Yung una will be the case of Cuy versus Arellano. Etong si Cuy ay estudyante ng Arellano University. No? Yan yung sa Legarda. Tapos sa kanilang scholarship agreement, mayroon dong stipulation na bawal siyang lumipat ng school. Na kung sakaling siya ay lilipat ng school, nagiging required na dapat i-refund niya lahat ng natipid niyang tuition fee nung siya ay scholar pa. No? Eh di syempre lumipat ng school si Cuy. No? Kasi kung hindi siya lumipat ng school, wala tayong pag-uusapan ngayon dito. No? So lumipat siya ng school. No? Tapos hinisingil siya ngayon, no, ng Arellano by virtue of the stipulation under the scholarship agreement. But when it reached the Supreme Court, sabi ng Supreme Court that kind of stipulation would be void. No? Kasi ang nagiging datingan tuloy sa grant ng scholarship will be like a marketing scheme, no, na ang gusto dito or nagiging propaganda, no, na ang gusto dito ng school ay yung mga brilliant students will be connected with their school. No? Na kung sakaling graduate yan, maging successful sa buhay, no, pwede sila maging proud na alumnus nila. No? Itong estudyante na ito. Nakakatawa lang that the Supreme Court mentioned na supposedly the public or the society would have an established interest over these brilliant students. No? Na kaya kailangan pag mabibigay daw ng scholarship agreement based on merits lamang, pero hindi pwedeng ginagamit yun na sa propaganda. Okay, with regards that of the school. Kaya naging void for being contrary to public policy. Also, sa kaso ng Saura versus Sindico. No, dito sa kaso na ito, si Saura at si Sindico ay mga parties ng national, or rather, mga members, no, ng Nationalista Party. Okay? They have an agreement na internally ay magkakaroon muna ng election within the party, no, and they made a pledge na supposedly pag ikaw ay natalo dito sa internal election na ito, hindi ka tatakbo sa national election as an independent candidate or with the other party, no, that they are enemies with, no? Kaya ang nangyari dito, si Sindico ay natalo sa internal election. Okay? Pero tumakbo pa rin siya, no, doon sa national election, at ang nakakatawa diyan, siya ang nanalo, no, doon sa national election. Kaya nagkaso ngayon for damages si Saura, no, alleging the pledge that they made towards each other, na supposedly daw ay meron siyang liability for damages dahil nagka-breach, no, nung kanilang agreement na bawal tumakbo kaysa national elections. Pero ang sabi ng Supreme Court, void, no, ang kanilang agreement na yan. Unang-una, no, because you are already waiving your political rights. Okay? Not just the political right of the running candidate, okay, but the rights of the electorate, no? Kasi nababawasan yung mga choices na meron ng electorate kapag pinagbabawalan nating tumakbo ang mga tao. Okay? Kaya ano din, ang premise din kung bakit yan naging void is not just because of the agreement being contrary to public policy, okay, with regards to the constitutionally protected rights, no, that are political in character, but because the political rights are not transmissible in character, no, kaya he cannot be the valid object of a contract, no, at dahil nga walang valid object, magiging void na rin relative to that, no. Pero yun nga, naging example din ito ng Supreme Court na magiging contrary to public policy. Okay, now yung mga contrary to morals naman, no, ito, yung mga naging example dito ng mga civil law authors and some jurisprudence, no, medyo case-to-case basis. Pero ang common description kasi dyan ng korte ay yung agreement is shocking to the morals. No, kahindik-hindik. No, yung nagiging agreement na meron sila dito. No, kaya medyo subjective and case-to-case basis nga na depende din sa korte. No, yung nagiging decision dito kung magiging contrary to morals or not. Okay? So examples na kasama dyan kung may contract of loan. Now, dito sa kaso na yan, may mag-asawang nangutang sa bangko. Tapos may unilateral right, okay, yung bangko to increase the interest rate at nagulat na lang sila na umabot na ng 50%. Okay, yung interest na kanilang binabayaran. So it was reduced by the court, okay, for being contrary to morals dahil nga nagiging confiscatory or inequitable na yung interest na binabayaran kung ganun kalaki. Okay? It's not because of usury. Again, no, wala suspended ang usury law natin. We are not been applying the usury law for a long time already. Although the highest interest rate na pinayagan ng korte is 24% per annum. Now, anything above that would normally be declared contrary to morals that would justify the reduction of the interest that can be chargeable. Or kung sakali daw na may agreement ang parties na magtatrabaho pero walang bayad, that will also be considered void for being contrary to morals. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, sir, kung nariyan, nagtatrabaho na po ako sa firm ngayon, no? Ang dalas namin nag-OT, no? Pero yung senior ko, hindi po ako pinapayagan na mag-charge ng overtime kasi daw sasabog yung account, no? Na sobra-sobra yung magiging charges. Magiging void po ba yun? Yes, no? Kasi technically, you're being made to work without pay. Ang magiging tanong na lang dyan ay willing ka bang magkaso? No, ganun lang naman yun. Pero you will have a valid cause of action for that, no? Even from a labor law perspective, okay? Or kung sakali according to Justice Paras, na merong agreement, no, 465 lang yung utang, tas every time na hindi ka magbabayad 5 pesos per day ang nagiging penalty, magiging void na din daw yan for being contrary to morals na. Kasi sobra-sobra naman yung nagiging penalty with regards to the principal obligation that you are required to pay. Okay? Now, the third fundamental characteristic will be mutuality, no? At dalawang bagay ang nagiging rule natin dito. Unang-una is that the contract must bind both parties. Ang idea dito is that hindi pwedeng pag pumasok kayo ng kontrata, yung isa ang bound by the contract, yung isa at any time pwedeng mag-back out. Na hindi yun pwede. Okay? Kasi nga dapat binding to both of them, being mutual in character yung ating mga kontrata. And pangalawa, the validity or compliance with regards to the contract cannot be left to the will of any of the parties alone. Na kaya nga ito supposedly, with regards the both parties will be bound, hindi pwede mag-renounce just because you made a bad bargain. No? Pinasok mo ko yung kontrata, tapos sasabihin mo, ay parang lugi pala ako dito, ayoko na. No, hindi pwede. Kasi nga, binding, dapat to both parties yung kontrata. Yan din ang dahilan kung bakit nagkakaroon tayo ng void the kontrata if there will be a potestative suspensive condition that we mentioned in the loan obligation. Kasi kapag yan ay solely dependent on the will of one party lang, which is the debtor, at suspensive in character, sabi natin, no, by legal effect, ang parang nagiging datingan dyan ay hindi naman nila intention to be bound by the contract. Kaya yung validity ng kontrata being left to the will of the one of the parties lamang will be considered void na. Okay? But take note, no, bakit pag suspensive or bakit pag resolutory ang condition natin nagiging valid pa rin? Well, aside from the idea na ito nga ay supposedly demandable already, okay, and the happening of the resolutory condition would merely extinguish the already demandable obligation. The other idea there is that supposedly nga it results in the extinguishment lang. No, at ang pinagbabawalan nga lang natin dito na maging left to the will of one party is the validity and the compliance lang. No, hindi naman nagiging bawal na kung ang extinguishment ay based on the will will of one of them, magiging valid pa rin yan or hindi na covered ng prohibition under mutuality of contracts. Okay? And sabi natin, supposedly the validity or compliance, okay, to the contract cannot be left to the will of one of them, pero pinapayagan naman yan if it will be left to the will of a third person. No? Ito lang, kailangan may communication kung ano yung naging determined no, na performance ng third person na ito, okay, and supposedly nga dapat equitable pa rin or fair, no, yung mga terms that he will come up with. Kasi kung magiging inequitable yan, the courts will be empowered to determine what is equitable. No? Ibig sabihin, pwede nang hindi binding yung determination ng third party natin na ito. Okay? Now, dito rin kasi sabi natin yung compliance no, to the contract cannot be left to the will of one party lang. Kaya nagkakaroon tuloy dito ng discussion with regards an escalation clause, no, or that of a de-escalation clause for that matter. Okay? Pareho na lang din yan. No, escalation or de-escalation. Bakit hindi ako makapagsulat? Ayan, okay? Escalation or de-escalation clause. Ang idea dito ay nagbabago, no, yung compensation under the contract. Whether increase, kaya escalation ang tawag, or decrease, ang nagiging tawag ay de-escalation clause naman. Ngayon, paano magiging status nitong mga escalation and de-escalation clause na tinatawag natin? Depende kung, or rather, the validity will depend upon whom it will be dependent. Okay, itong ating escalation clause na ito. Kasi kung yan ay dependent on the will of one party lamang, nagiging void na. Kasi nga yung compliance, okay, to the contract will be left to the will of one party na lamang. No? Like for example nga, yung kaso dyan ng spouses Florendo and the PS Bank, no, na meron nga ditong spouses na nangutang sa bangko. Okay, and there is a stipulation in their agreement that supposedly the bank can unilaterally, okay, increase the interest rate. So itong stipulation na ito ay tinreat natin as void for being violative of mutuality. Kasi the compliance na relative to the obligation will now be dependent solely on the bank na lamang. No? Kaya it violates the principle of mutuality na. Okay? Pero kapag ito naman ay dependent upon a thing other than the will of the parties, no? Dahil hindi sila ang nagde-determine nagiging valid na. So kung kunwari, in-apply yan with regards a lease transaction. No, etong lessee, supposedly to a lease transaction, ay nangungupahan ng lupa kung saan nakatayo yung kanyang shell. No? Kumuha siya ng shell na gasoline station, so nangungupahan siya. Ngayon, may stipulation sila dito na yung rentals can increase or decrease depending on foreign exchange rates. No? So pag tumataas ang dollar, tumataas ang renta. Pag bumababa ang dollar, bumababa ang renta na binabayaran. Sabi ng Supreme Court, valid yan. No? Kasi ang nagiging basis naman natin is independent of the will of the parties. No? Wala naman sila kinalaman kung ano ang nagiging forex rate. Kaya na meron tayo. Or even that of a contract for a piece of work. No, so dito meron kang contractor, okay, at merong kliyente. No, tapos meron silang stipulation na pwedeng nag-increase ang compensation dito kung sakaling tataas ang statutory minimum wage. No, kaya again, the determination of the statutory minimum wage is something independent of the will of the parties, kaya magiging valid na rin yung stipulation na iyan. Kasi nga ang basis naman ng escalation or de-escalation clause natin is something that is independent of the will of the parties. No, kaya hindi na na-violate yung mutuality. Okay? Now, the fourth, no, fundamental characteristic will be the obligatory force of contracts. Although we did mention this already in the loan obligations, that supposedly the contract will have the force of law between the parties. That's why it will necessitate compliance in good faith. No, kaya nga ang idea natin, sabi natin, kapag yung law ang hindi mo sinunod, or rather yung kontrata, okay, ang hindi mo sinunod, ang magiging treatment dyan ng batas ay parang batas na din, no, ang hindi mo sinunod. Kaya nagkakaroon tuloy ng cause of action para magkaso. No? Dahil nga parang batas ang treatment natin ng kontrata as between the parties. Okay? Including any of the stipulations that they entered into. Okay? And lastly will be the principle of relativity, no, or privity, as others would call it. No? Another term for relativity will be privity. So may dalawang aspect ito. No? Una ay kung sino muna ang apektado. No? As a general rule, that will only be the parties. Okay? Pero it can extend even to the assigns of the parties and even that of their heirs. No? Kaya nga sinasabi natin kung tinatanong na ang utang ba ng ama ay nagiging utang ng anak, generally yes, no? Because of the transmissible character of the obligations. Kaya nga in privity, hindi lang yung parties, no? Pero pwede rin kahit yung kanilang mga assigns or yung kanilang mga heirs, no, ay magiging privy to the contract. No? Kaya pwede silang maapektuhan nitong kontrata na ito. Okay? Kaya ito, ang nagiging general rule natin with regards third parties is that supposedly they cannot, no, be affected by the contract to which they are not a party to. No? Kaya if you remember, yung naging example natin doon sa substitution ng debtor, no, when we talk about novation, sabi natin dyan si lessor, si lessee, nagkaroon ng stipulation na yung utilities kaya ay babayaran dapat ng lessee na, no, under the lease contract. Yun nga lang, tumakas ang lessee na may hindi nabayarang utilities, kaya yung utility company ngayon sinisingil si lessor. Ang isa sa naging defense ng lessor nga ay nagkaroon ng substitution by virtue of their contractual stipulation na si lessee na dapat ang magbabayad. Okay? But again, aside from the fact no na there can be no valid substitution without the consent of the creditor, the other factor there is that the contract of lease is only between the lessor and the lessee. Kaya as a third party, si utility company is not affected no, by the stipulation between the two of them. Okay? Kaya walang effect sa kanya na nagkaroon sila ng ganyang stipulation because of the principle of relativity. Okay? But there are 4 exceptions to this rule. Na ang third parties natin can be bound by the contract even though they are not parties thereto, or that they can interfere and be made liable, or rather that they can sue no, on a contract, even though they are not parties to that contract, or that they can be liable, even if they are not a party to the contract, or that they may benefit. Okay, under a contract, or yung tinatawag natin ditong por otrui, no, na mga stipulation. Okay, kaya kahit sila ay third parties, they can be bound, they can interfere, they may be liable, and they can benefit. Now, even if they are not parties to the contract. So, isa-isahin natin yan. No? Una, you can be bound by a contract that you did not enter into. No? Dito nga papasok yung concept natin na basta may public instrument. Kaya ang nami-mention tuloy dito ng Civil Code specifically ay yung mortgage law at land registration law. No, kaya kung kunwari, meron ka ditong debtor, meron kang creditor. Nag-execute si debtor ng real estate mortgage in favor of the creditor para sa kanyang lupa. No, si debtor mismo, ang mortgagor natin dito. Binenta kayo ng debtor yan. Okay, dito kay X, no? So dito nagkaroon ng contract of sale. Okay, pero dito ang contract of real estate mortgage natin will be between the debtor and the creditor lang. Ang tanong ngayon, affected ba no itong buyer na si X nung real estate mortgage na yan? Depende. Okay, kasi yan kapag naka-public instrument, okay, itong mortgage at supposedly yan ay registered. Now, in the registry of deeds, it will affect third parties. Now, kaya si X, kahit third party siya to a contract, now he will still be bound, okay, by that real estate mortgage. Now, because of the registration of the public instrument containing the real estate mortgage. Now, nag-a-apply din natin yung concept dito na bound ang third parties with regards contracts that establish a status. Okay, that establish a status. No? Magiging binding din yan upon the whole world actually. No? Kaya kung kunwari may kinasal, no? Si H and W, okay, kinasal sila dito. The contract of marriage will be between the two of them lang. No, pero all of us will be bound by the contract of marriage in such a way na hindi mo na pwedeng ikasal or hindi ka na pwedeng magpakasal, no, kay H at W because they are already married to each other, no? Kaya in a contract that establishes a status, no, pwede ka pa rin maging affected or maging bound by that particular contract. Now, the other exception is when you can interfere no, with the contract that you did not enter into. No? At dito nga pumapasok yung tinatawag nating action polyana, okay, and action directa, no, which will be the actions initiated by a third party to a contract. Okay? So kunwari, itong action polyana muna. No? Etong si debtor ay may utang kay creditor, let's say 1 million. Tapos nagbenta ngayon ito, nagkaroon ng sale, okay, in fraud of the creditor. Okay, etong ating debtor. So dito, sino ang parties to the contract of sale? Si debtor lang at si X. No, pero by law, etong si C, no, as a third party to the contract of sale ay pinapayagang mag-action polyana to have the rescission, okay, of the contract entered into by his debtor to defraud him. No, kaya again, hindi siya party to the contract pero siya ay pinapayagan na mag-interfere. No, kaya nagiging exception to the rule on privity or relativity of contracts. Ngayon, ano naman yung action direkta? Dalawang bagay ang pinag-a-applyan nito. Either ikaw ay supplier ng labors or materials or ikaw ay lessor. No, so ganito ang sitwasyon. Merong lessor, okay, at lessee. Tapos itong si lessee enter dito as sublease. Okay, agreement. So meron siyang sublessee. So again, the sublease contract will be between the lessee and the sublessee lang. Pero kung sakali kasi na si lessee ay hindi nakapagbayad kay lessor, pinapayagan na kagad si lessor na diretso na kagad na kasuhan ng sublessee, no, for the collection of the unpaid rental. Kaya nga nagiging aksyon direkta kasi directly, no, yung nagiging kaso dito kahit hindi naman siya party to the sublease agreement. Okay? Ganun din with regards kunwari ikaw ay supplier, okay, ng materials at labor. So dito merong contractor, okay, at merong kliyente. No, so dito ang contract for a piece of work will be between the contractor and the client only. Now, but within the same situation na si contractor ay hindi nakapagbayad doon sa supplier ng materials at labor, pinapayagan siya directly ng magkaso, no, doon sa kliyente for the collection of the unpaid materials and labor. No, yun nga lang dito, ang idea pa rin ay may limit lang yung liability, okay, na limited lang yan sa mismong unpaid the obligation nila. Kaya kung kunwari si sublessee, no, religiously ay nagbabayad naman ng renta, kaya 20K na lang Kunwari 20K na lang yung utang na hindi pa niya nababayaran na rent. Pero it turns out na ang utang ng lessee kay lessor ay 100,000. Magkano yun na makukolekta ni lessor kay sublessee? Yung 20 lang. No, they cannot be made liable naman beyond what they are required to pay lang din. No, kaya hanggang doon lang yung pwede silang pagbayarin. Okay? Now, pangatlo na nagiging exception natin is that when third parties can be liable, okay, under a contract. At dito natin pinapasok yung concept ng tinatawag na malicious interferor. No? Or in layman's terms, ang tawag talaga natin dyan ay EPAL. No, yan talaga yan, EPAL. No? Ang idea lang dito, inudyok niya, no, yung party to the contract na wag nang ituloy, no, yung kanyang kontrata or na i-violate niya, no, yung terms ng kanyang kontrata. O di ba may bago na naman kayong technical term na pwede mong gamitin. No, kaya pa may umi-EPAL at ng Google sa mo, ha, malicious interferer to. Okay? Pwede pa rin maging liable, no. Na in one bar exam question, ginamit yan, no, kasi ang nangyari dito, merong kontrata between X, okay, and AB company. Okay, an employment contract. Okay, and the employment contract here contained the term now will be a fixed 2-year period. Okay, ngayon itong si X, si YZ company, kay induced X na sabi niya, magkano ba ang binabayad sa iyo ng AB company to doubling ko lahat. No, kaya itong si X tuloy lumipat. No, nang hindi pa natatapos yung 2-year period. But again, no, the contract of employment is only between X and AB company, pero pinapayagan ng batas na pwede ding maging liable si YZ company dahil siya ang nag-unjok, no, or nag-induce, okay, kay X, no, to violate the terms of his contract. Okay? Kaya kahit third party siya to the employment contract, nagkakaroon pa rin ng liability. Take note, however, that the liability of YZ company cannot exceed, no, that which X can be liable for. No, ang idea pa rin dito, hindi pwedeng mas malaki pa yung babayaran ni YZ company na damages as compared to X. Bakit? Kasi si X pa rin ang party to the contract that breached, no, the terms of the contract. Okay? Kaya dapat siya pa rin dapat yung mas liable, no, compared dun sa ating malicious interferor. Hi sir, yung sa example nyo po ng utility company, technically hindi siya bound sa substitution ng debtor, but if choice niya, if mahanap niya yung sublessee, pwede siya mag-collect under action directa. No, technically hindi. Okay, walang action direkta doon. He's not bound because there's no valid substitution to begin with dahil hindi naman siya nag-consent. No, kaya hindi siya i-require na magkaso sa lessee. Okay? And hindi rin siya pwedeng magkaso sa lessee because technically nga ay third party pa rin siya sa kontrata. No, kaya dapat ang kakasuhan niya ay yung lessor. Tapos yung lessor on the basis of the contract ang mangongolekta kay lessee. No, hindi pwede mag-action direkta kasi lessor lang ang pwede mag-action direkta or pag supplier ng materials at labor lang. No, hindi lahat ng klase ng debtor mo. No, walang ganung concept na lahat sila ay pwede mong i-action direkta. Okay, very specific lang tayo. Okay? And the fourth exception will be yung a benefit. Now that will be granted to a third party na tinatawag nga nating stipulation for autrui. Okay, one thing you need to be careful with, unang-una ay bawal ito kapag kay incidental matters lang. No, kaya it must be a part of the contract itself. Okay, not merely an incidental matter, no? Itong nagiging stipulation in favor of the third party. Okay? Na, kung kunwari, ito, may contract of sale tayo, no, between S and B. Okay? Magbebenta si S ng lupa. Okay? Ang napag-agreehan nilang selling price dito ay 10 million pesos. Now, but under the agreement, yung 8 million sa 10 million na yan ay kay S babayaran, pero yung 2 million ay babayaran kay X. Ito, yung tinatawag nating stipulation for autrui. Okay? Kaya hindi pwedeng incidental benefit lang. It must be part of the contract itself. No, yung nagiging benefit to the third parties. Okay? Now, ang nagiging legal effect nito is once X would communicate, no, his acceptance na tinatanggap niya na yung benefit under the contract, parang nagiging party na siya. No? Kasi pinapayagan na dito si X or the third party to enforce the contract. Okay, he can sue, no, for the enforcement of the contract already. Okay, if there is a stipulation for autrui at nagbigay na nga siya ng kanyang acceptance, no, or alam na ng mga parties to the contract that he accepted the stipulation. Okay, yun nga lang din ang idea natin dito ay yung revocation. Now, na once supposedly na communicate ng acceptance, according to the Supreme Court, it cannot be done by any of the parties lang. No, kailangan pati, no, yung consent nitong third party beneficiary ay dapat kunin din natin, no, considering nga kay na nagiging party na siya to the contract, no. Kaya aside from both parties consenting to the revocation, dapat din magko-consent doon sa revocation ng kontrata yung ating third party beneficiary. Okay, so those will be the 5 fundamental characteristics of a contract. Okay, ito lang sa classification, papasadahan lang natin to kasi yung iba naman dyan ay nabanggit na natin where it is material. Okay, una, the classification with regards dependent. So dito meron tayong tinatawag na accessory contract at principal contract. Now, ang idea ng principal contract is that it can stand on its own, kaya hindi nagiging dependent yung existence niya with another contract. So a contract of sale, a contract of loan, a contract of lease are principal contracts. Hindi katulad pag yan ay accessory contract, No, nire-require na dapat meron pang valid contract na principal niya, no, upon which it will be dependent. Kaya kung sakaling maging void yung principal contract, magiging void na rin yung accessory contract natin. But take note nga that the accessory follows the principal, not the other way around. No, kaya kapag ang accessory ang void, it will not affect the validity of the principal contract na. Kaya the most common accessory contracts that we will encounter will be that of a pledge, a real estate mortgage, and a chattel mortgage, or yung tinatawag nga nating mga credit transactions that are normally entered into to secure a principal obligation. No? Kaya nagiging dependent on the existence of another contract yung kanilang existence. Now, in some authors, they would include a third classification na tinatawag nating preparatory. No, pero technically, preparatory contracts are principal contracts by themselves. Now, yun nga lang, pinapasok kasi natin yung preparatory contracts in preparation for the other contracts that we will be entering into. No, kaya nagkakaroon tayo dito ng end to achieve when we enter a preparatory contract. Kaya a good example of a preparatory contract would be the contract of agency. No, kasi pinapasok mo yan para yung agent mo makapasok sa kontrata, no, in behalf of the principal in preparation, or a contract of partnership. Okay, that the partners would enter into that contract in order to divide the profits amongst themselves or to exercise a common profession. No? Kaya nagiging in preparation yan so that the partnership itself can eventually enter other contracts also to meet the ends to be achieved, no, by the parties. Ngayon, according to perfection, ito na nga yung sinabi natin na consensual, na tatlo lang essential elements, so consent, object, and cause. As compared to real contracts na plus delivery pa. Okay? And yung mga formal contracts natin na plus the form, no, required for its validity. Okay? Kaya nagiging apat ang essential elements natin pag real and kapag formal contracts. Now, with regards the purpose, okay, ito, a contract can be entered into to transfer ownership like a donation, a sale, or a barter, or for the conveyance of use like a usufruct, lease, and loan, or for the rendition of service like a lease and agency. Pero hindi material to. I don't know why there was one author included this, no? Pero hindi naman material with regards to the rules that we will be discussing. Now, with regards to the obligation produced, no, or the parties, okay, who may be liable, pwede yung bilateral or reciprocal. Okay, if both of them will be reciprocally obliged towards each other, may respective obligation sila sa isa't isa. Pero pag isa lang sa kanila ang obliged, unilateral. Now, yun nagiging tawag natin. At ito nga, naging material na yan with regards the rules as to fruits, now on the happening of a suspensive condition. Now, na-discuss natin sa law on obligations. And with regards the cost or consideration, nabanggit na natin to kanina din, na onerous if the prestation of the other party, ito ay gratuitous kapag pure beneficence or liberality, okay, on the part of our obliged party, or remuneratory, no, kapag past services already rendered. Okay, ang magiging cost or consideration natin. But again, no, magiging material ang classification na yan later on when we get to the interpretation of contracts and the presumption of fraud. No, pero with regards those rules nga, onerous, gratuitous na lang ang classification natin. Kaya yung remuneratory, pinapasok na lang natin yan under the gratuitous contracts. Okay, as to cost or consideration, again, on applying the rules, no, but not on objective type questions. Okay? Now, according to risk, can be commutative kapag may equivalence of prestation na tinatawag. Now, kaya a good example here will be a contract of sale. Now, dahil yung binabayad ng ating buyer na price, presumably, no, ay pareho sa value ng object na binibigay ng ating seller kay buyer. Okay? Kaya nga nagkakaroon ng equivalence in prestation dahil pareho technically sila ng value na natatanggap. As compared to what we call an aleatory contract na walang equivalence of prestation. Kasi yung isang party, may obligation nga siya, pero dependent upon chance naman. No? Kaya kung kunwari yan, a good example of an aleatory contract is an insurance. Okay, so dito meron kang insurer, no? At dito meron kang insured. Magbabayad si insured ng premiums. Okay, let's say 20,000 ang binayaran niya, no? Tapos i-insure ngayon or i-assume ni-insure yung risk, okay, relative to the property insured. Let's say the value ng property na ini-insure dito ay 200 million. Okay? So magkano ang paluwal ng insured sa kontrata na ito, yung 20,000? Magkano ang natatanggap niya? Depende. Kasi kung mangyayari yung risk, no, or the contingency upon which the insurance is based, pwede siya makatanggap as much as the value of the property, which is 200 million. Pag hindi naman nangyari yung risk, insured against, wala siyang matatanggap. No? Kaya again, by disparity, no, dahil hindi pareho ang paluwal mo at hindi rin pareho yung natatanggap mo under the contract. Kaya walang equivalence of prestation kasi nga yung obligation ng isang party ay nakadepende sa chance. No, hindi katulad ng isa na fixed lang talaga ang nagiging obligation na meron siya. Okay? Now, with regards the rules applicable and the name, it can be called nominate contract. No, kapag may particular designation or name by which we call the contract, okay? And dahil may rules na applicable lang din sa kanila. No, kaya in the application of rules, in a nominate contract, ang priority pa rin natin dyan na yung stipulation ng parties. No, kung meron, and as long as they are valid stipulations. Pero kung sakasakaling walang stipulation and then we apply the law, no, that will be applicable on the nominate contract. Kaya nga kung contract of sale yan, we apply the law on sales. Kung partnership, we apply the law on partnerships. No, kung credit transactions, we apply the law on credit transactions. So may specific set of rules na nag-a-apply lang sa kontrata na iyon. At kung sakasakali na may circumstances not covered, saka natin ina-apply ngayon yung oblicon. Okay? Suppletorily, no? Suppletorily, ayan. Okay? For portions or circumstances now that will not be covered by the very law itself. As compared kapag ito ay in-nominate, wala nang ang tawag, wala pang specific rules, no? Kaya ang sinusunod natin dito ay stipulation pa rin nila. No, as long as these are valid stipulations ng parties natin. Kung sakaling wala, we apply the closest, okay, nominate contract, no? The rules on the closest nominate contracts, and for other circumstances, saka natin ina-apply dito yung oblicon. Okay, in general. So ganyan na nagiging hierarchy ng rules na ina-apply natin with regards to the kind of contracts. So apat ang klase ng in-nominate contracts natin, at ito lang ang technique na ginagamit ko dyan. Pag ang word na Latin, okay, ay do, no? In English, ang nagiging translation niyan ay give. Okay, ito lang ang tatandaan mo. Everything else will flow, no, from that particular statement, no? Kaya pag do ut des, parehong give pareho, give. No, kapag do ut fascias, edi give do. No, ganun lang ang tatandaan natin. You just have to remember that do in Latin means give in English. Now, all the others will flow from that na. Okay, para hindi kailangan nakabisado mo yung apat na to kasi tinatanong pa rin, no, pagdating sa board exam. Kaya do, give. No, yun lang ang tatandaan mo. Everything else will flow from that already. Okay? So, those will be our fundamental characteristics and yung ating mga classification of contracts. So, we'll take our last break. Now, and when we come back, we'll discuss the rules on interpretation of contracts and then yung defective contracts na natin. Okay? Sige. Ito sa ating interpretation of contracts, no? At ang rule natin is that unang-una, ina-apply lang natin ang ating rules on interpretation if there is any doubt. If there is any doubt, no, or obscurity, okay, relative to the contract. Okay? Ibig sabihin, kapag clear, no, naman ang terms ng kontrata or yung mga stipulation natin, hindi na natin na-apply yung rules on interpretation. We just implement the contract as it is. No? Pero ang idea nga dito ay dapat nagkakaroon muna ng doubt or obscurity kung paano ini-implement yung contract bago tayo mag-rules on interpretation. At ang primary consideration natin dyan will be the intent, okay, ng mga parties. No? Yung intention ng parties ang magpe-prevail. Okay? Yan ang ating susundin dito. And ang nagiging tanong tuloy ng iba dyan, paano natin malalaman ano ang intention ng parties kung sakali naman na ito ay state of mind lang? Sabi ng batas, we can utilize the contemporaneous and subsequent acts of the parties to determine their intention. Now, kaya in one Supreme Court case, supposedly, meron ditong tinawag na deed of assignment. Okay, na pinasok ang mga parties. No, yan yung naging title niyan. Kaya si X nag-deliver dito kay Y ng motorcycle. Okay? Tapos eventually, no, what do you call this? Nagkaroon pa ng mga subsequent payments. Itong si X ng installment. Okay, installment payments relative to the loan obligation na meron siya kay X or kay Y rather. Kaya no itong si Y ay naniningil na, ang naging claim bigla ni X, no, is that the deed of assignment they executed, no, simultaneous to the delivery of the motorcycle is considered daw as dasyon and pago na. No, dahil daw hindi na pumalag itong si Y by silence, it will be treated as fully extinguished na dapat ang obligation niya. So ang naging tanong tuloy dyan sa Supreme Court case na ito ay tama ba si X? The answer is no. No, hindi natin yan itatrato as dasyon and pago kahit pa deed of assignment yung title nung kontrata na pinasok nila. Because the subsequent acts of X na pagbabayad ng installment would negate the idea na ginawa niyang delivery yung motorcycle as payment na. No, it contradicts the idea na pinambayad niya yung motorcycle kung subsequent to that ay nagbayad pa rin siya ng mga installments that are due to him. Na kaya based on the contemporaneous and subsequent acts of the parties, ang trato dun sa pag-deliver ng motorcycle ay security lang. Okay, for the unpaid obligation of X, no? Kaya hindi nagmatter dito kung ano ang nakasulat sa kontrata, ang nagmatter nga yung intention ng mga parties natin which we obtained, no, or determined from the contemporaneous and their subsequent acts. Ngayon, meron tayong mga specific rules on interpretation na gagamitin natin on a case to case basis, no? Yun nga lang kasi yan, when we talk about the specific rules on interpretation, na magbibigay na tayo ng example para ma-visualize ninyo. Pero I've never heard of a question in the board exam na in-apply, no, itong rules on interpretation na ito. Kaya if ever baka ma-encounter nyo siya on an objective type question lang. Okay? Pero magbibigay tayo example so that you can visualize how they are going to be applied lang. Na una, na supposedly gumamit ng terms under the contract which are generic. No, kaya sinasabing general terms, no, ang ginamit. Pero according to the rules, no, dapat ang magiging interpretation natin sa general terms na yan ay distinct pa rin. na ang magiging interpretation natin or specific na hindi how they would normally be understood na and that they have to be taken into account with regards the agreement of the parties. No, yun pa rin ang magiging basis natin kahit pa sabihin natin na general yung term na ginamit. No, kasi kung kunwari itong si S nagbenta dito kay B ng house and lot. Tapos sa kanilang agreement may nakalagay na all furnitures, okay, will be included no in the sale that will be made by S to B. No, it turns out now na merong sofa na yun pala ang may-ari nito ay si X, no? Kaya borrowed lang nito ni S, etong sofa na ito. Ang question ngayon dyan or yung doubt, kaya ay kung kasali ba yung sofa doon sa all furnitures na binibenta ni S no, or kasama no, sa binenta ni S na house and lot. Kasi nga ang term na ginamit ay all. Okay? So in that case, the interpretation ay hindi. No, kasi kahit generic nga yung term na all, it would not have been intended by S na ibenta yung mga bagay na hindi naman kanya. No, kaya ang interpretation pa rin natin ay hindi kasali itong sofa set na ito kahit pa ang term na ginamit sa kanilang stipulation ay all furnitures are included. Pangalawa, kaya ay supposedly nagkakaroon tayo ng several meanings with regards the stipulations now that were provided in the contract. At ang gagamitin nating interpretation dyan ay kung saan ito magiging valid. Okay, kaya ang tinatanong dito or the interpretation will be that which will render it effectual. No, ang ibig sabihin niya yung interpretation kung saan valid ang kontrata nila. Kaya kung kunwari, no, etong si W, okay, wife. Okay, so meron siyang husband. Si W lang ang nagbenta kunwari dito kay X, no, kay B, ayan, kay buyer. Tapos ang nakalagay lang sa binenta ni W kay B ay nakalagay lang my house. Okay, pero it turns out dalawa ang bahay na meron si W. Yung isa ay yung kanyang exclusive property na minana lang niya sa kanyang parents at pangalawa ay conjugal property. No, kung saan nakatira ang husband and wife na ito. So ano ngayon ang interpretation natin dun sa word na my house? No, kasi pwedeng may several meanings nga na pwedeng yung exclusive, pwedeng yung conjugal. Ang interpretation natin diyan ay yung exclusive. No, ang binebenta dito ni W. Kasi kung yung conjugal property ang binenta ni W, it would require na dapat nag-consent ang kanyang asawa. No, and under the family code, yung pagbebenta ng conjugal property without the consent of the other spouse will be considered as void. No, kaya kapag yun ang naging interpretation natin na yung conjugal ang binenta, magiging void pa yung kontrata nila. Kaya we will interpret it in a way no, na ang binibenta niya ay yung exclusive property lang niya para maging valid kahit hindi nag-consent no, yung kanyang husband doon sa sale natin. Okay? Pangatlo, ay supposedly kapag marami ang stipulations natin para mabigyan natin ng meaning no, yung mga doubtful provisions, we interpret the contract as a whole. No, kaya the stipulations would be interpreted together no, para we can better understand ano ba talaga yung intention ng mga parties dito. Kaya yan, kunwari, ito, na si D ay may utang dito kay C. Nag-execute sila dyan ng real estate mortgage. No? At nakalagay dito sa real estate mortgage na dapat kung magkakaroon ng second real estate mortgage ay dapat magko-consent dyan si C. No? At kung sakasakali, merong mga penalty provisions okay, under the real estate mortgage. Eh di syempre, itong si D nag-enter sa second mortgage okay, over the same real property nang hindi niya kinuha ang consent ng creditor. Okay, ang claim ngayon ni creditor dito dahil sa stipulation na nagre-require na consent niya, void daw dapat. No, itong nagiging second mortgage na ito. So, ang duda natin dito ay ano ang effect no nang hindi pagkuha ng consent ng creditor mortgagee okay, sa pag-dispose ng property or pagbenta sa ibang tao. Okay? So, ang magiging interpretation natin dyan ay valid pa rin. Bakit? Kasi naglagay ng penalty provisions yung parties. Ibig sabihin, pag nagkakaroon ng non-compliance with regards to stipulation, yung penalty lang dapat ang mag-a-apply. No? Pero yung pinapasok ng debtor natin na transaction will not in any way be affected. No? Yung validity ng kanyang transaction just because hindi kinuha ang consent ni creditor. So in such a case, no, ginamit natin as a whole yung kontrata, kaya in-interpret natin na yung reason for the penalty ay pag hindi kumuha ng consent ng creditor. Pero not necessarily na yung second mortgage ay magiging void na no, for non-compliance with that stipulation. Again, we attribute to the doubtful ones yung mga provisions na nandun din sa kontrata kaya we interpret the contract as a whole. Okay? Now, pang-apat na rule natin dito ay kung sakaling may different meanings din relative to the contract or that of the agreement or the stipulation, ang magiging basis pa rin natin ay kung ano ang nature at object ng kontrata natin. Now, yan ang pwede mong gamitin. Kaya for example, meron tayo ditong lease contract. Okay, si lessor ay pinaupahan niya yung kanyang bubong. Okay, doon kay lessee kung saan maglalagay ng advertisement. kaya itong lessee natin, no? So pininturahan na yung bubong ng lessor and all that. Tapos may stipulation under the lease contract na kapag may nagtayong building sa tabi ng bahay ng lessor, it will cancel the contract na. No, kasi mawawala na yung purpose. Dahil aanhin nga naman ni Leslie yung advertisement niya doon sa bubong, no, kung hindi naman nakikita dahil nakaharang na yung building na tinayo sa tabi ng bahay ng lessor. Ang catch dito, kung kunwari ang tinayo, no, sa tabi ng bahay ng lessor ay billboard. Okay? Ang tanong ngayon dito, can it still cancel the contract or can it fall within the definition of what will constitute a building? Okay? And normally, ang connotation natin ng building ay multi-story na concrete house supposedly, pero maraming floors. Okay? Magiging included ba yung billboard dyan? The answer will be yes. No? Kasi nga, ang purpose pa rin ay para nga magamit as advertisement. So kahit hindi naman building, yung natayo sa gilid, pero ganun pa rin ang epekto, no? Na hindi na nakikita yung advertisement ng lessee, then pwede na rin i-interpret in such a way that the word billboard will be within the definition of building as used in the contract. No? Kaya sinasabi na ang basis pa rin natin dito ay that which will consider the nature and the object of the contract. Okay? Now, kung sakasakali naman, pwede rin natin gamitin as basis ang customs, no, or usage of the place in interpreting the contracts. Kaya kung kunwari, may lease contract kayo, no, tapos nagkaroon ng doubt with regards the actual amount of the rentals, no, na kailangan bayaran ng lessee kasi nagkaroon ng disparity. Okay? With regards the stipulations provided, you can utilize the customs of the place, no? Pwede ka mag-survey doon, o magkano mo ba pinapaupa yan, no? Pwede na maging basis yon in determining what is the actual rentals na babayaran ng ating lessee. Okay? Take note also that we mentioned kanina sa contract of adhesion na ito nga yung magiging effect niya sa interpretation lang din ng kontrata. Na kung sakasakali nga na may doubt with regards a contract of adhesion, na it will be interpreted in favor of the party who did not cause the obscurity. Kasi sa contract of adhesion, sabi natin yung isang party ang nag-prepare ng kontrata. So kung may doubts or obscurity na relative to the contract he prepared, hindi naman pwede na sa kanya papabor, no? Siya na nga yung gumawa ng obscurity to the terms of the contract. Okay? Now, take note, however, that when any of the six, okay, specific rules will not be applicable. And we are talking about of incidental circumstances. Dito na nga magmamatter kung ang kontrata ba natin ay gratuitous, okay, or kung ito ba ay onerous. Kasi pag gratuitous contract yan, ang interpretation natin will be the least transmission of rights and interest. Pero pag yan ay onerous, ang nagiging interpretation natin on the incidental matters will be the greatest reciprocity of interest. Okay? Ito, para lang ma-visualize nyo, no, kung paano yan nag-a-apply. Kunwari ito si X. Okay? Na ang kanyang obligation under the contract kay Y ay magdi-deliver ng kotse. Pero hindi naka-specify sa kontrata kung kasama ba ang stereo. No? Ito, para lang ma-illustrate natin, tanggalin na lang muna natin yung concept that the accessory follows the principal or that the accessories and accessions must be delivered also. No? Kasi yung doubt supposedly will be with regards the inclusion of the stereo. No? Para lang ma-apply natin yung concept ng interpretation of contracts dito. So, kung kunwari, yan nga ang obligation at hindi malinaw, no, kung covered yung stereo na ito, kanino yan mapupunta? No? So, depende sa klase ng contract. Kasi kung kunwari yan ay contract of sale, di mapupunta yan kay Y. Because that will be the interpretation that will provide the greatest reciprocity of interest. Pero if it turns out na yung delivery ng car ay donation lang, no, nag-gratuitous contract naman kay X mapupunta ang stereo. No, because that will be the interpretation that will provide for the least transmission of rights and interest. Okay? Kaya nga sabi natin, nagmamatter kung ang contract ba ay gratuitous or onerous as to the cost or consideration. Pero walang binanggit na remuneratory. So paano kung remuneratory yan? Gratuitous din ang treatment natin. No? Na least transmission of rights ang magiging interpretation. But again, okay? When we talk about these rules, no, with regards gratuitous and onerous, we are talking about only of doubts that would pertain to the incidental matters lang dapat. No? Kaya nga sa example natin, yung stereo lang. No? Kasi kung ang doubt natin would pertain to the principal object of the contract, no, magiging void na ang kontrata natin dahil wala ng object, which again is an essential element. Kaya kung kunwari, ang sinabi dito ni Y is that I will give you one, okay, of my 5 cars. No, pero dito iba-iba talaga yung kotse ni X, no? Meron siyang lumang-lumang kotse na halos fully depreciated na. Meron naman siyang brand new diyan na Range Rover, no, or Land Cruiser. O, di ba? Sobrang mahal ng kotse. Kaya ang duda na natin dito ay alin sa 5 kotse niya ang kanyang i-deliver. Hindi na tayo mag-a-apply diyan ng rules of interpretation, but we will treat the contract as void for the lack of an object already. Okay? Again, if the doubts would pertain to the principal object, hindi natin ginagamit yung least transmission of rights and interest or the greatest reciprocity of interest. Void na ang magiging kontrata natin. Okay? So those will be our rules on interpretation. And the last, okay, portion on the law on contracts will be defective contracts. Now, at ito, 4 ang klase ng defective contracts natin. Kung sakali, no, like in the past board exam, tinanong na, okay, what will be the arrangement of the contracts from the least defective to the most defective? Yan na rin ang pagkakasunod-sunod yan. No, yung rescissible contracts natin ang least defective and the most defective there will be the void contracts na. No, and yes, natanong na yan sa board exam dati, yung arrangement daw from least to most defective. So rescissible, then voidable, then unenforceable, and void. Okay? Bakit tinatawag na least defective yung rescissible at voidable as compared to the others? Kasi ang rescissible contracts, again, by legal effect, no, ay valid until rescinded. Ang voidable contracts naman natin are valid until annulled. Okay, but again, that is the legal effect. No, kaya pag tinanong ka dito ng what is the status of the contract, you answer accordingly. No, na kung rescissible yan, rescissible. Kung voidable, voidable. Kasi in the past, no, nagkaroon na ng ganyang problema sa mga pre-board na ang nagiging sagot ng mga estudyante valid pa rin. Sabi nila, sir, di ba valid until annulled, valid until rescinded? If the question asks for the status of the contract, you answer specifically. Now, again, the contracts being valid until rescinded or valid until annulled are legal effects, no, but not the status, no, of the contract itself. Okay, those are the legal effects of the contract. Ngayon, ito mukha lang marami. I swear to you, no, na mukha lang itong marami. Pero if we are, as we go along the discussion, itong rescissible contracts natin ay 5 lang. Okay, ang voidable contracts natin ay 3. Lahat may kinalaman sa consent. Kaya sa unenforceable natin 3. At lahat yan nabanggit na natin. No, that we will be discussing in a while. At kapag void contracts, lagi lang nasa essential element. Okay, ang nagiging problema dito, plus those that are declared by law as void. No, pero otherwise, pag nakita mo mahaba lang yung listahan tignan, pero laging nasa essential element ang problema. Okay, lagi lang nasa essential element, kaya nagiging void na. So, simulan muna natin sa rescissible contracts, no? Ito, we made a comparison already in rescission in rescissible contracts at yung tinatawag nating resolution kapag reciprocal contracts, no, or reciprocal obligations. Okay, although rescission din ang term na ginamit ng Civil Code, no, some civil law authors would normally use the word resolution to refer to that, no, para lang ma-distinguish nga siya na iba ang pinag-uusapan nating rescission in reciprocal contracts as compared to rescission in rescissible contracts. Because again, by nature, okay, a rescission in rescissible contracts is considered a subsidiary remedy. Okay? Or even in some instances, this is referred to as a remedy of last resort. No, na kung may iba ka pa namang remedies, yun na lang muna ang gagamitin natin. Pero kapag resolution kasi, in reciprocal obligations, this is a primary remedy. No, at ang nagiging ground nga natin dyan for resolution ay nagkakaroon ng breach, okay, or non-performance ng other party. Now, where one party is already ready and the other is not yet ready. No, kaya pinapayagan ng agad-agad, no, na rescission in reciprocal obligation ang gagamitin mo dyan na remedy. Kaya siya primary. No, sa rescission naman, no, this would normally pertain to violation na more than 1/4 or sakaling may fraud or the possibility of the same, no, or when provided for by law. Pero ang idea kasi dito, no, ay dapat may ibang remedy ka pang available, gamitin mo muna. No, kapag wala ka ng choice, saka na lang natin i-rescind yung rescissible contract na iyan. No? So again, magkaiba, no, ang nature ng rescission in reciprocal obligation na tinatawag nating resolution as compared to rescission in rescissible contracts. Okay? Now, rescissible contracts, sabi natin 5. Now, yung unang dalawa dito will pertain to lesion. Okay? At ang required amount ng lesion natin dito must be 1/4 of the value. Okay, ano bang ibig sabihin ng lesion? Economic damage, no? Or translated in Tagalog, ang tawag natin diyan ay pagkalugi. Okay, lugi, no? Kasi binenta yung property for less than the value at yung pagkalugi natin must be more than 1/4. Okay, but to be specific, dapat we are talking about here na ang nagbenta, okay, ay guardian dapat. Okay, na property ito supposedly ng kanyang ward. Okay, or kung kunwari representative ang nagbenta tapos absentee. Literal yan, hindi natin alam kung nasan siya. No, kaya absentee yung tawag, no? Na property ng absentee ang nagbenta ay representative. Yun lang. No, kaya in all other circumstances, like for example, may principal ka, nagbenta ang agent, tas nagkaroon ng lugi by more than 1/4, rescissible ba yung contract? Hindi. No, as long as it is within the authority of the agent to sell, kahit pa nalugi yung principal natin, hindi yan nagiging rescissible contract. Kasi ang nakaspecify nga lang sa kontrata or sa ating loan contracts ay kapag property ng ward na binenta ng guardian, property ng absentee na binenta ng representative. No, yun lang ang pumapasok dito. Okay? Kaya nga yan yung naging example natin before, no? Kunwari ang seller mo dito ay si guardian. Binenta yan kay buyer. Okay, yung lupa, kunwari ng ward. Tapos dito, ang fair market value ng lupa ay 10 million, pero ang selling price lang na pinagbentahan ay 4 million. Kaya yan, magkakaroon na ng lesion by 6 million na supposedly ay 60% of the value. No? Kaya dahil more than 1/4 yan, dahil ang 1/4 natin ay 25% lang, rescissible na at the instance of the ward. No? Ganun na magiging bilang natin dyan or magiging basis, no, in determining the lesion, the value dapat. Okay? Now, pangatlo, na resissible contracts natin ay in fraud of creditors. At dito nga pumapasok yung concept natin ng aksyon polyana. No, na supposedly third party, si creditor to the contract, pero pinapayagan siyang i-rescind, no, yung kontrata na pinasok ng kanyang debtor, okay, to defraud him. Okay? May specific remedy nga na action polyan ang tawag natin. And in a while, we'll discuss the presumption of fraud, no, na kung saan nga ay presumed fraudulent yan na pwede nang magkaso si creditor at hindi niya kailangan patunayan yung existence ng fraud dahil pinipresume na ng batas. Okay? Pang-apat ay kapag ito ay thing under litigation, na pinaglalabanan itong object na ito. Tapos ngayon, dinispose ng walang approval, either that of the litigants or the court. Kaya ang datingan dyan ay pwede rin niyang maging fraudulent. No, itong transaction na ito kasi nga pinaglalabanan pa yan tapos binenta mo na kagad sa ibang tao nang hindi nag-agree ang korte or yung other party, no, to the litigation. Okay? Kaya nagiging resiscible na rin in character yung pag-dispose ng object na ito. And those that are specifically provided for by law. Now, so again, 5. Mukha lang marami. Yung first 2 ay lesion by more than 1/4 ni ward at ni absentee in fraud of creditors, things under litigation, and by law. Okay, mukha lang siyang marami, no? Pero there are very specific triggers, no, that will help you remember what are these resiscible contracts. Okay? Ngayon, etong lesion, sabi nga natin, will be the economic damage that will represent the difference between the fair market value of the property that was sold and the price that was received, no, for the sale of the property. And again, dapat yan more than 1/4. Okay, in order for the lesion to make the contract resiscible in character. Kaya pag exactly 1/4 lang, okay, or below, hindi na yan resiscible. Okay, hindi na magiging resiscible. Okay? Now, yung pangatlo nga natin dito ay dapat in fraud of creditors. Diyan nga natin ginagamit yung remedy na aksyon polyana kung saan makapag-interfere si creditor na ipa-cancel, no, or i-rescind yung kontrata ng kanyang debtor. Okay? Now, take note again, now that rescission is a remedy of last resort. No? Kaya kung sakaling may ibang remedy si creditor na makakolekta na hindi kailangan i-cancel yung fraudulent contract, dapat yun muna ang gamitin niya. No? Kaya sinasabi nating subsidiary or remedy of last resort ang rescission kasi required na dapat no other remedies are left, no, on the part of the creditor for him to resort to action polyana. Kasi kung kunwari, ayan, may utang si debtor kay creditor, no? Tapos si debtor may pinasok na kontrata na in fraud, okay, of the creditor. Pero may third party. Nasabi niya si X, ako na lang ang magbabayad ng debtor. Papayagan pa ba dyan si creditor na mag-rescind? Hindi na. Kasi may remedy na siya para makakolekta. Hindi na niya pwedeng gamitin yung action polyana or rescinding the fraudulent contract entered into by his debtor. Okay? Now, the things under litigation will be resiscible only, again, kapag walang knowledge and approval ng litigants or the court. Otherwise stated, kung merong approval, no, ng litigants or that of the court, hindi na siya resiscible. Okay? Kaya specific ito na dapat ang datingan nga dyan ay parang may pagka-fraudulent din. No? Yung nagiging disposal dito. Kasi hindi ka kumuha ng consent ng other party to the litigation or the court handling the case. Okay? Now, ito na yung specifically provided for by law. I'll just give you some examples. So una, meron tayong tinatawag na right of rescission as a right of an unpaid seller. So, yan yung meron kang possessory lien, may stoppage in transitu, may right of resale at rescission. No? Kaya by law, nagkakaroon ng specific right of rescission ang unpaid seller natin. Pangalawa, ay kung sakali dito yung na-discuss na natin sa loan obligation. So may obligation ka to deliver or give a specific thing subject to a suspensive condition. No? Tapos during the pendency of the condition, hindi pa na-fulfill, nagkaroon ng deterioration with the fault of the debtor. Sabi natin dalawa ang remedies dyan ng creditor. Pwede siyang mag-fulfill pa rin or require, no, the fulfillment of the obligation and pwedeng mag-rescind na lang ng obligation. Kaya may rescission as specifically provided for by law. Okay? But take note nga na supposedly yan ay may fault ng debtor kaya in either case merong claim for damages si creditor. Okay? Now, in lesion, no, with regards partition. So dito meron kang mga co-owners. Okay? And again, the co-ownership would normally be extinguished by the partition. No, na specify na aling portion ng sayo, aling portion ng akin. Pero dito ang iingatan nyo, in order to be rescissible yung partition, dapat at least, okay, 1/4 lang, no, ang nagiging lesion ng isang co-owner, no. Hindi kailangan na more than 1/4. Okay, as compared to a guardian ward and representative absentee. Dito, yung partition at least 1/4 lang, no, ang nakalagay sa civil code natin. Pang-apat, ay kung sakaling may sale of real estate pero kinulang yung area that was delivered by more than 1/10. No, kaya kung kunwari 100 square meters ang napag-agrihan, ang na-deliver lang ay 80 square meters, so kinulang ng 20. No, that is more than 1/10. In that case, may remedy of rescission na rin yung buyer natin. Or kahit hindi yan lumagpas ng 1/10 pero the intention of the buyer ay hindi siya papasok pumasok sa contract of sale knowing of the deficiency, kahit pa 5 square meters lang yan, 8 square meters lang, pwede pa rin mag-rescission, no? Based on the intention of the parties. Or payments that will be made in insolvency, no? Kasi normally yan, dapat sinusunod na natin yung preference of credits, no? Kaya kung magkakaroon ng payment ang creditor, in that case, the payment itself will be considered rescissible in character. Pala naka-charge yung phone ko. Anyway, so those, no, are examples of rescission as a remedy that will be specifically provided for by law. Ngayon, i-discuss naman natin yung nature, no, ng rescission as a remedy. So we've already mentioned na supposedly subsidiary lang, no, na kung may ibang paraan para maka-recover ka, then yun na lang muna ang gamitin mo, no, at hindi ka pwedeng mag-rescind ng kontrata. Okay, take note also that it will be only allowed to the extent necessary only. No, hindi kailangan na lahat, no, ay ating kinakancel. Kaya kung kunwari, etong si debtor nga, na may utang dito kay creditor, tapos marami ang kontrata na pinasok ng debtor natin, let's say 4 yan, okay, which are all considered in fraud ng kanyang creditor. Pero kung sakali na yung pag-cancel ng first contract would be sufficient for the creditor to recover the damages, then yun lang ang ika-cancel natin. Hindi naman kailangan na lahat pa, no, ng kontratang pinasok ng debtor ay ika-cancel para lang meet, no, yung damages that the creditor seeks to recover. Kasi nga dapat to the extent necessary lang pinapayagan ang ating rescission. And na as an effect, okay, of the rescission, once it is invoked, dapat nagkakaroon ng mutual restitution. Ibig sabihin dito, isosole, no, ng parties to each other kung ano ang natanggap nila under the contract, together with the fruits and the price, no, kung an interest rather, kung may price na binayaran. Kasi ang goal natin dito ay kung magre-rescind tayo ng kontrata, they will be brought back to the state as if no contract was entered into, no? Kaya parang nasa kanila pa rin yung object dapat na binigay nila under the contract. Okay? Kaya nagkakaroon ng mutual restitution. Okay? There are 3 instances, however, no, na wala nang nagiging rescission. Okay? Hindi ka na pwede mag-rescind ng kontrata natin kung sakaling hindi mo kayang